the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. A Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City as the Thunder look to finish off the Timberwolves tonight. 5:30 tip on ESPN. Coverage over on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Thunder are 8.5-point favorites. Mariners and Nationals at it again tonight for the second of a three-game set. George Kirby making just his second start of the season for Seattle. Trevor Williams for Washington. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners still with a game-and-a-half lead over the Astros in the AL West. In Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight in Raleigh, the Hurricanes looking to avoid elimination at the hands of the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT and Max. Panthers are minus 115 on the money line. The Hurricanes minus 105. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new black 1080 The Fan hoodie, as well as classic long and short sleeve tees. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. This is Danny and Dusty.
Orangutan is going to be a thing.
You're not coining anything new.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
I'll throw some monkey sounds in there and call it good.
The old Danny Meringue pie.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Hello, I'm Andrew Nemec filling in for the boss man, Dusty Hera. To my left, Danny Meringue in the booth, Jeff Rust. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Welcome
Yeah,
in, dude.
the meringatang.
Look, welcome in, dude.
Thank you. When did that start? How did that? Is that real? Is that something you grew up with in any way, shape, or form?
The two names that I had growing up were Orangutan and hilariously Danny Manning,
Okay.
Clippers legend.
Yeah, good for you.
It was always funny. It was like people were like, "Oh, Danny Manning." Yeah, I'm like, Dan Marino.
Okay.
That was another one. And basically, anybody whose name was Dan
Yeah.
And it was like, well, Danny Manning and Dan Marino are both good, so.
My name is just Andrew John, so I went by AJ, A.
Okay.
A lot of times just Nemec, the last name. My wife calls me Daddy.
There you go.
And then the ultimate...
Yeah, the first giggle out of Rust. There we go.
I mean, hey,
and
we all love that one.
the ultimate diss in our family, and it was like, among the cousins, it was like fighting words. If somebody called you Kurt Rambis.
Oh.
With the goggles and the hair. If someone called you
Rex
Kurt
Bex action?
Rambis, it was throw hands time.
Gloves are off.
I mean, do you guys know what the mustache and the
yeah.
goggles and the bad hair? And
Oh, yeah.
if you were going to epitomize nerdy basketball player from look only,
Right.
no shot at Kurt,
Yeah.
that would be it.
Swagless.
Yeah.
Hey. No, yeah. Fair enough. Swagless. Completely swagless in all ways. And
No swagard whatsoever.
No shot at swag there. No shot at swag there. But just no way in the world could you let someone get away with calling you Kurt Rambis. I didn't have an exciting nickname, just Nemec. And I feel like I need one, and I feel like, given the tone of 1080, we've got a Dirt, we've got a Dusty. Mud is sitting right there.
Right. There we go.
Yeah. Well,
Rust. We've got Rust, Dirt, Dusty, and there's no Mud.
Dirt's kid is Smudge, right?
Yes.
Smudge,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
there you go.
I'm not officially claiming it. You can't name yourself. I'm not trying to swaggy pee this thing. But just if I want to fit in the 1080
I wanna go by
family,
T-Bone.
yeah. If I want to fit in the 1080 family, it's got to be Mud Nemec. The weather is incredible in the Rose City right now, and
Yes.
I do think
Until tomorrow.
I debated this with Suk last week, and he was saying that summers in Portland are the best anywhere in the world.
Oh, yeah. I'll agree.
No.
Well, I mean, anywhere. Okay,
Rust,
that's
wrong, and I won't hear that nonsense from you.
look. You would have a hard time finding better summers than here. How about that?
His argument, because my initial thought was just San Diego game set.
I was listening to this the other day. I was on my way home.
Okay. So my argument is obviously San Diego just consistent. And his is, if you live in San Diego, if you're living in a place like that, you don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And in Portland, we get a day like this, and you are going to drive home and smell the smells of people grilling. You're going to see people outside. You're going to see people enjoying things. And we're going to know summer has arrived in Portland.
See, it's usually, I always say that you can always count on dry weather starting July 5th.
Yeah, see, that was my argument.
Yes. And then, but we have fantastic all the way through September and half the time, through the first half of October even. It's, you get into the, I don't know, can we still call it an Indian summer? Is that still fair game?
I don't know if we're supposed to say that.
Well, it just did.
I love cherry blossoms on the waterfront. Mm-hmm. My wife and I like to go every year and go see that. But that is, watch your mouth.
Nerd.
That is hit or miss.
Yeah.
Weather-wise. And if it rains hard, that's the end of it because all the blossoms fall to the ground.
Yep.
So if you get a hard rain when the cherry blossoms bloom, it's over.
Yeah. We don't have to go too far. Our next door neighbor has a cherry tree in the front yard.
It was funny when we had the first decent weather. It was right towards the end of the Blazers season, and I was talking to Denny Avdia, and he's like, "Man, it gets nice here." I'm like, "Yeah, Danny. When everyone dips, that's when it's nice." Because he got here in late September, and he got a little bit of nice weather before the season started. But these guys that either aren't from here or haven't spent a ton of time here, they come here when it's gray. And they leave when it's gray, and they never the guys that end up
So it's Portland sucks, and that's why we can't get free agents.
That's why they try to get guys to come out here during the summer, and they're like, oh, and the guy
just hopefully not when it's 116.
Well, I mean, the guys that end up staying out here, living out here long term, like Channing Frye, Steve Blake, Travis Outlaw, Martell Webster, there's a long Cliff Robinson, there's a long Terry, there's a long list of guys that have come here that didn't start here, and even when their careers were over, stayed here. Because they're like, oh, this place is pretty dope. But you don't get it unless you spend the whole year here. Because when you're playing for the Phoenix Suns and you come up here twice a year, you're just like, oh, remember the famous Phil Jackson line about we hate coming to Portland because it's gray and we get our asses kicked. Yeah. Kobe could not win here. They hated coming here because they always came here in January or February. The weather is god awful. You're just crappy, gray, and rainy. And they lost. And so, that's what it gets ingrained in guys' heads because that's when they come here. But, I've been to over 50 countries. I've lived all over the world. Outside of my family being here, one of the main reasons I came back when I got out was the fact that not just the weather. It's that you can drive an hour in basically any direction and have an entirely different, biosphere.
Yes.
You go an hour east, you have a 12,000-foot tall mountain. You go an hour west, you have an ocean. It's not a great beach, but you have an ocean.
Our beaches here are fantastic.
It's pretty to look at. If you were a photographer, you'd love it.
Yes.
And
it is not the most fun to get
when
in
you
the
go
water
to the Oregon coast, you can always tell who is from Oregon and who is not. The Oregonians are out there in a T-shirt and shorts. And everybody else is in a puffer jacket.
Yeah, and they're like, what is this nonsense? Yeah. Why is the sand black? But there is something to be said because there are I lived in West Texas. I live in the middle of Texas. I lived in Florida. I lived in Italy. I spent a significant amount of time in the Middle East. And I'm gonna sneeze. There we go. This is the one thing I'm fighting here is we're in the grass seed capital of the world.
Yeah, here's a little of that. You want nice weather in Portland? All right, we're gonna sprinkle a little pixie dust known as pollen on that thing and take it from you. Steal the joy from your summers. And I'm telling you, that is why you cannot have Portland as the #1 summer. We're into 2 weeks now of me dying on this hill, and I'll let you get back to it. But we have to get past Portland being the best summer in the world when there's pollen. And as Rust said, you can't guarantee a 3-day stretch with no rain until July.
Yeah, July 5th.
I will say,
thank you.
When the days here are banging, that July through August period, boy, is it great.
Chef's kiss.
I'm from LA. I grew up where the coldest it got was 62.
Right.
And you're like, that's when you pull out the puffer jacket in LA. Yeah. You're like, ooh, it's brisk out here. But when I was a little kid, the thing that we did is we went to the river or we went to the lake. We went to Pyramid Lake or we went to the Arizona California border down to the Colorado River, where my grandparents lived in Needles, Arizona, middle of BFE freaking desert, and it's 110 all the time. But you take a lawn chair. And because the shores are all kind of gravelly sand, you just stick the lawn chair in the water with the umbrella over the top of you, and you sit in the water. Like that, there's pictures of me swimming before I could walk, and I got so used to never. I remember the first time I saw snow outside of my grandma who lived on Big Bear in California. 90, the first winter I spent here was one of the biggest winter snowstorms we ever had, and it was February of 1990. And I remember making a snowman and being like, "This is insane. What do I do with this?" And it was just I think we had been here for a week.
Oh wow!
At that point in time, so it was going from LA to that was such a huge shock.
Now I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You said something that just rang alarm bells in my Blazer fan brain so hard that I have to ask. You said the Blazers like to have people visit in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically, theoretically,
mm-hmm.
the NBA were to say, we're going to shift the NBA season. This is back in time. We're going back in time machine.
The NBA plays during the summer?
The NBA plays during the summer, and the playoffs start in mid-July or August. Does this franchise honestly draw a different caliber of free agent, and is their history different? Seriously.
Probably not, but
Okay.
it is a thing.
And that's a demographics issue.
Yeah,
potentially?
that's
more than a weather issue.
The two biggest hindrances that you have for
Are Hito
Portland-
Turkoglu's wife.
Yeah, no, it's the whitest city in the NBA. Even it is actually technically whiter than Salt Lake. Let that sink in for a second.
What?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Portland is whiter than Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
What about what about an OKC?
Oh, Oklahoma City is a lot more diverse than you think it is.
I mean, I've never been there.
Yeah, OKC is a much more diverse city than you think it is.
We might get a finals of OKC and Indiana, and those will both be more diverse places than Portland. Or
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not terribly surprised because we're about as white can be here. But I figured just the sheer the power of the white in Utah, might overpower.
Lot
the
of
number.
missionaries, buddy. A lot of missionaries. Just there's a lot. There's a lot of the non-whites as part of the Mormon tabernacle, as it will. But it's the demographics. It's further away from everything. You don't getting flights. Yes, you're close to LA, which is why a lot of guys live in LA in the off season. But it's the demographics. It's the lack of being able to blend in. It's the lack of extracurricular activities available in the region. Let's put it that way. And then it's.
Could you expand upon that?
Not on radio, I can't. FCC prohibits that expansion.
Right, fair enough.
But then it's also
it's a Stephon Diggs party, is what you mean.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But it's an incredibly prohibitive tax bracket.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a big factor.
You have
That's
one
a
of
big
you have
factor,
one of the I think LA and New York are the only cities in the NBA. Boston might have passed them with more prohibitive tax brackets. Those are real things. Everybody's like, oh, but nobody wants to come here because it's like this. And it's no, man. It's mostly because it's almost entirely white and it's expensive.
See, all I was hoping for, Danny, is it's a beautiful day, and if NBA players could see this, they'd all flock to Portland.
Look, if the weather
And
was like this
instead,
year round,
bolt of reality.
you might have a chance. Because you can make back when it's nice outside and people are out and they're doing things and there's more bustling businesses and stuff like that. It was well, tax brackets in LA are prohibited and same in New York. And it's yeah, but it's New York City and Los Angeles. Yeah, the weather sucks in New York, but it's New York. In LA, yeah, the taxes suck, but it's LA. It's 80 degrees. Everyone down there is gorgeous. There's a million things to do. And the amount of money you make in endorsements and everything that comes back with that is tenfold. What's the best endorsement you can get in Portland?
Oh, I think you can rope in some Nike Adidas stuff.
Okay, but that's Dame was the face of Adidas.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have,
But he could do that anywhere.
Exactly. It's just kind of it just happens. But if you're in Florida, you can have Nick Saban's Cadillac dealerships. What he has, 18 of them?
Now, listen, I think Jeremy Grant would love to be the face of Salt and Straw.
There you go. But how lucrative? Remember Shabazz?
All the ice cream you can
Do you remember Shabazz Napier? Shabazz is the man.
Yeah.
The commercial.
Yeah.
Yusuf Nurkic had the coffee commercial, but I think it was the same company where it looked like he was driving a smoked out VW.
Yeah. I'd go sell the hell out of some Reese's deviled egg potato salad.
But again,
boom.
Look, Reese's has got stadium money, but do they have NBA player endorsement money? You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's and there's only you're gonna get that sweet Intel and Nvidia money. You got to find one of these big time streamers that's in the NBA. It's out there playing video games and give them a bag that way. But there's just so many hurdles you have to overcome, and it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's Pat Riley. It doesn't matter if it's Danny Ainge. It doesn't matter, like, the hurdles you have. And look, Ainge and what he's doing in Utah right now. Is it as easy as well, again, it wasn't easy in Boston, but it's a lot easier in Boston than it is in Utah.
Yes.
Like, those are just
But you can be smart. You can build it via trade. You can land that piece, develop them. We've seen that with Indiana. We saw it with Tyrese Haliburton last night with a historic performance, an all-time performance. Dare I say one of the best performances in the history of the league in the playoffs by a point guard? That's next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan. An absolute masterclass by Tyrese Haliburton last night. 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds, 4 steals. Those stats have never been put up in the playoffs by a player who had 0 turnovers. He had a 15-5-6 quarter. The only other player ever to do that is LeBron James. Danny, an absolute joy to watch Tyrese Haliburton cook in that game. Honestly, I think it's one of the best playoff performances I've ever seen.
I have been a huge Hallie fan since he came into the league. And I brought this up a couple different times, and this is not a, like, look at me, I'm right situation, but I had an executive ask me 2 years ago if I wanted to build a team, who would I take? Tyrese Haliburton or Ant Edwards? And I go, I know everyone should probably say Ant Edwards. He's bigger, he's stronger, his physical profile, his gifts are like, there's so much more of a straight line to draw. Because remember all of the early MJ comparisons because of the footwork and the smile and the earring, and like he just had the goods. And
some of the mid-range, some of the flash.
And Hallie's this quirky, weird, kind of skinny, awkwardly built guy who has this jumper that goes like across his face, and his timing and his rhythm is all just jazzy and awkward and different. But I go, I'm going to take Haliburton because I think his ability to impact everyone else is just different. Like there are guys that are truly transcendent talents, and I think Ant Edwards is that. But I don't know if he has the leadership, the soft skills, the intangibles, where with Haliburton, is he as skilled as Ant Edwards naturally? No. But I think his leadership, his ability to impact, his ability to raise all tides, it's very similar to me, Chris Paul and Steve Nash are the two best floor-raising players in modern NBA history. When you're talking about like just get dudes that are semi-competent, and if you have those guys running your team, you're gonna be good. And it's not because they're scoring 30 a night. It's because they are going to get you in spots, and they are going to make everyone else so much better than they're capable of being without them, that you're just going to like, you look at Chris Paul's career, look at Steve Nash's career, like look at who have played with them. And then after they've left, how much better those guys are because they understand how to play the game better. And I look at Tyrese Haliburton, and I look at what he's done for Nembhard. I look at what he's done for Nesmith. I look at what he's done for Miles Turner. Like Pascal Siakam's an all-NBA guy. Like he's stamped.
He's bona fide.
Yeah. But like everyone is bought into what Tyrese Haliburton is and how he plays. And Stan Van Gundy had a great line last night about pace, in that coaches don't dictate pace. Your coach can tell you, play faster, play. We hear
right.
Every trope every season from every coach and every media day. We want to play faster. We want to play faster. I've talked to Anthony and I've talked to Dame about this, about playing faster throughout their career. Terry Stotts was a half-court coach who wanted to play a little bit faster. But Dame cut his teeth at Weber State running more pick and roll basically than any college guard we'd ever seen. He came into the NBA as a dyed-in-the-wool pick and roll maestro. Not only just as a setup guy, but a scoring guard out of the pick and roll. Anthony Simons, he's told me so many times, I want to play faster, but in my head, I've spent 6 years playing alongside Dame and CJ who want to operate in the half court. And that's how I was developed. That's how I was brought up. And so that's the style that I play. Tyrese Haliburton has always been a guy who is going to push pace. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Watching that game last night, I have never seen another guard other than maybe Steve Nash, who is more willing to get off the ball early in a possession and be totally fine with it. There's no ego, there's no nothing, and yet still have such a massive impact on the offense.
Well, speaking to that ego point, he was asked about his performance in the post-game press conference, and they laid out his stats and said no one's ever had a 30, 15, 10, 4 steal game with no turnovers. And he said, you guys are just making up stats to make me sound better. You know, he wasn't going to buy into to any of that. You tweeted yesterday something about the uniqueness of Haliburton. He was voted the most overrated player in the NBA by his peers. When I hear the term overrated and we talk about stars who are bona fide, Haliburton last night, ground him, star. Jokic at times gets that overrated label. Draymond at times gets labeled overrated. All three of those players contribute in a very unique way that's not necessarily your SportsCenter highlight, your Twitter or X highlight. I mean, obviously Jokic has his passes and he has some great moments, but they're not flashy and they produce in these really unique ways. Do you think that is the reason that those guys, especially Haliburton, because it's so timely, are labeled as overrated because it's hard to define what makes them so special.
That's a big part of it, because you don't see Hallie flashing down the middle like Ant Edwards and baptizing somebody into another dimension. You don't have the flash and the panache of, I'll use Ant again, like the Jordan or Kobe-esque mid-post footwork, the Hooper's Hooper. Tyrese Haliburton, the way I compare him, he's a jazz musician. It's just kind of all over the place, but somehow it comes together. And they see the game so drastically different. You see this a lot with, I don't want to just qualify it as this, but this is a big kind of thing, because I saw Kevin Durant say something about this the other day, and how European players are different than American players, and Kevin Durant says, well, a lot of these guys are influenced by American players. I'm like, well, why do the Euros keep coming over here and playing the game differently?
Right.
Like, there is the guys from the starters, from No Dunks, Taz Melas, and those guys, God, I'm totally blanking on his name, the Australian. He has gone around and played basketball on courts all over the world. He's basically made a living out of doing that now. And one of the things he said is, like, it's really interesting playing like in the Balkans. You don't have guys, like, they'll play 3-on-3 on a court, 5-on-5 on a court. The ball won't touch the ground.
Right.
It's just pass.
Yeah.
It is a very, like, go watch an AAU tournament around here or anywhere in the country, and you'll just hear the air being pounded out of the ball.
Right.
It is two very different dynamics. And I'm not saying Haliburton doesn't dribble, because he does, but there's a difference in his cadence. There's a difference in his rhythm. And the same thing with Jokic. It's like the way these guys see the floor, the way that they're operating, the way, like, there's intrinsic feel. And I've mentioned this in how I've gone about my scouting in the last 15 years. If you go back and you listen to old podcasts and stuff like that, where I'm talking about drafts and things of that nature, I'll always go, look, if all things are equal, give me the guy who's got better physical tools or is bigger. Like, if all things are equal, if there's a guy who's like, a recent draft,
You want the outlier.
Yeah,
You'd rather have the outlier than the 6'4" guy who's he doesn't have that 43-inch vert, who's an okay shooter. Because what is his ceiling?
Exactly.
But the guy that has the untapped potential because of his length, because of his size, or because of a master skill has elevated value on your board and a lot of boards. There are a lot of people, they do that in the NFL too.
I would say that's
a common thing.
That's probably the default position of a lot of people.
I think that's pretty common.
Like Scoot's draft. I you go back and you can watch all the tape. I said I think Scoot's the third best player in this draft, and I had him and Brandon Miller on the same tier. Wemby was up and above God tier. There was no mistaking that. But I think I've got Miller and Scoot on the same tier. And if all things are equal, give me Brandon Miller, because he's 6'9", 6'10". Like, that's just what I'm going to go with. But as I've kind of looked at my analysis over the years, one of the things if all things are equal, but somebody has significantly better feel or IQ or just a feel for the game, I'm leaning more towards that guy. Like, the Blazers are picking 11th in this draft right now, and one of the guys that constantly gets mocked there is Kasparas Yakashionis, the point guard from Illinois. And he is a guy that he has feel. I watched him all week at Hoop Summit last year. And as I'm watching...
Yeah, he's kind of a darling of yours at this point.
Look, man, the thing about when you get to, like, it's one thing to watch games, but when you watch guys in practice for a week...
I've been to the Hoop Summit for a week.
Yeah, it's like...
I've been to the Hoop Summit, and you find the guy, and you go, okay.
There's something different with this guy.
This dude can elevate, and if you give him more stuff, he will learn it.
And that's
versus I am who I am, and I might get a little better, and I might get a little stronger, but I'm not going to evolve.
Like,
I don't have the body for evolution.
I don't
guys have the body for evolution.
And that's the thing is, I don't want to denigrate Ace Bailey. I don't want it to be like, oh, da-da-da-da. But
here it comes.
But I have questions about Ace Bailey's feel and IQ, and I'm not calling him dumb.
No.
There's a different level of IQ and processing. Like, you hear about this in college football and the NFL. Processing. Your ability to not only see it as it comes, but to know what's coming before that. Or the ability to do one thing, knowing what the next step, like, talking to Dame over the years, the number of times he told me, you know how many guys are better than me? more talented me. He goes, I know that if I do X, then Y is going to happen, then Z, and then it resets itself all over again. He goes, when I do this, it's not just because I'm trying to get to this. It's because I'm trying to get to this, that gets to this, that gets to this. And like, that's just a different level of feel. It's a different level of IQ. Like, yes, Dame's a great shooter and he's strong and but it's his feel, his touch, his IQ. It's all those things. And Haliburton does it on a level in a style that is so different, so unique, and so damn fun. And I hope to God that we get OKC and Indiana in the finals, just so all of the networks are forced to actually recognize what him and SGA are, as opposed to them being flyover country markets.
So that leads me to kind of my next point. The NBA doesn't have its LeBron. It doesn't have its Golden State Warriors. There's no Lakers. There's no Celtics. It's going to be Indiana, OKC in all likelihood. And that should be fascinating.
It should be. And yet, you know what was leading ESPN yesterday? Luka Doncic looks more fit at Real Madrid game.
But I think the NBA is going to see the good and the bad and the ugly in this finals. And we'll talk about it next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan. But first, here's Russ with SportsCenter.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, we got Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals tonight in Oklahoma City as the Thunder look to finish off the Timberwolves. Tip at 5:30 on ESPN. Coverage over on 910 ESPN Portland will start at 5 o'clock. The Thunder are 8.5-point favorites. On the diamond, the Mariners and Nationals at it again tonight for the second game of a 3-game set. George Kirby making his second start of the season for Seattle. He's opposite Trevor Williams for Washington. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners still holding a 1.5 lead over the Astros in the AL West. And Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final in Raleigh as the Hurricanes look to avoid elimination at the hands of the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT and Max. The Panthers -115 on the money line. The Hurricanes -105. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2 and enjoy high def 1080 The Fan.
the NBA Finals is not officially set, but it's looking very much like it's going to be the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder. Danny, I'm going to say a thing to you that I don't think anyone's ever said in the history of America. Indiana? Oklahoma City? Sexy time?
Yeah, no, it look from I am a basketball sicko, and this is basketball sexiness. I love everything about that potential matchup. Well, we'll talk about Minnesota and OKC here in a little bit, with Minnesota hoping to send this thing to at least one more game and get one more opportunity to play back home. But it's very much looking like with 2-3-1 leads that OKC and Indiana are going to be facing off, and this should be, and this is like, I don't want to get into the whole ratings thing, and it's all very dumb because the NBA is never going to compete with the NFL. It's just not.
And by the way, that's the ugly. When you tease the good, the bad, and the ugly is either going to be ESPN's packaging of this, because let's face it, they haven't set themselves up recently to talk high-level basketball. And that's what this finals is going to give us. Two unique point guards with insanely high IQs, an elite defensive team in OKC, an Indiana team that somehow manages to play at supersonic levels, no pun intended with OKC, sorry for those folks, but also limit turnovers. Those two things tend to not go hand in hand unless you've got a generational talent. There's some incredible stuff. I don't think ESPN is prepared with their talking heads, other than Tim Legler, to talk about the level of basketball that we're going to see. It's going to be like, who's the next face of the league? Is it Haliburton? No. Does he have enough aura? We're going to get that. The ugly is going to be TV ratings, and the good is going to be me turning on the simulcast with Legler and listening to them actually break down what could be, from a basketball standpoint, a styles make fights standpoint, one of the more intriguing finals we've seen in a long time.
You have the capacity to have these teams that are built so differently, in that you look at Indiana, there's no top draft picks over there. It's guy Pascal Siakam was a project. Neesmith was a guy that Boston was like, hey, he's just not going to do it. Nembhard is a guy like, in my draft evaluation, I thought Nembhard was going to be a guy that fought to stay in the NBA.
A lot of people did.
Yeah,
a lot of people thought that. Yeah,
and that's the thing is, like, you have to give Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan just so much credit for like the moves they like. Trading Domantas Sabonis is not an easy task. You're in Indiana, where in ownership, they've never, like, the Pacers have never had a number 1 overall pick because they never bought him out. They're very similar to what the Trailblazers' history has been.
Yeah, they are the Eastern Conference Portland.
They're always good. Like, they're just like, they've had opportunities to be in the finals, and they have the best built-in business plan ever, being in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. Like, you can do that because in the West, okay and good enough will get you 8th.
Oh, there's no doubt. The Eastern Conference is a shortcut to not just functionality, but
big good
potential championship.
Yeah, like, you have a path to an NBA Finals. If you're in the Eastern Conference, like, you take the Celtics away, all of a sudden, we're like, whoa, this is wide open. It's like, that doesn't even account for Cleveland. That doesn't account for Milwaukee, if Dame doesn't get hurt. It doesn't account for Miami, who's like, everybody's like, oh, Miami's always good. Yes, they're in the East, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but it's the lesser conference, and it has been for 40 years.
And the lottery hasn't helped. For people who are just like, oh, the lottery was absolutely fixed so the Mavericks could get Cooper Flag, I hear you. The league really, more than anything, more than having a Dallas Mavericks problem, the league has a lopsided Western Conference, Eastern Conference problem that they need fixed. And Dallas won, San Antonio 2 in this draft, where we think there might be a few really top-end talents at the top of the board. That's a bigger problem. And if you're looking at Adam Silver after that lottery and saying, oh, he's doing backflips because the Mavericks and Spurs went 1-2, you've got another thing coming. He would have loved for the Wizards to have a shot here. He would have loved for some of those franchises to actually elevate with a Cooper Flag, and instead we got more lopsided.
And in all likelihood, if Giannis asks out, which we probably hear about in the next week or so, he's probably going to end up in the Western Conference. And it's like, it's another MVP in the Western Conference. And you're like, oh, sweet Jesus, can we not? But no, you talk about the Pacers and the Thunder. You have this opportunity for, stylistically, you're talking about styles making fights and all the things that kind of come out of that, in that in the playoffs, you're supposed to slow down. And it's supposed to be harder, and it's supposed to be more difficult. And, like, you're going to make mistakes that are just going to haunt you. And it's like, I want to emphasize what Tyrese Haliburton did last night was absolutely bat-ass crazy.
Oh, off the charts.
Like,
to
to
have that pace.
That's the thing, to play at that
At
speed,
that pace.
at that pace, the things that they do to have that many assists, yes, his teammates have to contribute, but like his ability to put a defense under pressure at all times throughout all 4 quarters and do not, like, I was looking at this last night. Let me pull it up now that it's updated today. So you take a look at in the playoffs where guys stand in just raw totals, right? When you talk about assists and turnovers. And as of today, Tyrese Haliburton has now played 14 games. 14 games in the playoffs. He is averaging just under 10 assists. He has 137 total assists. That is 23 more assists than 25 more assists. I was doing this last night before it went final.
Then second place?
No, then Jokic in third place and 23 more assists than Brunson. Brunson has 2 more games played. He also has 20 more turnovers. Tyrese Haliburton in 14 games has 27 turnovers.
It's incredible.
Less than 2 turnovers a game while being on the ball that much, passing that much. Like, I brought this up, and I'm hoping to have her on either later this week or as they go into the finals. Caitlin Cooper, who's one of the best independent coverage people in all of basketball, not just for the Pacers, but she is so damn smart. I've had her on Jack Ramsey's probably 4 or 5 times over a couple years. We had her on the radio, I want to say 2 years ago. Caitlin is so damn smart. And she was one of the very first to identify Haliburton in a very specific point. Jump passing in the NBA is death. Getting caught in the air. But the problem is Tyrese Haliburton
really fast.
Not just
and does it caught up in the air.
He does it on purpose.
Yeah.
He does it with rhyme and reason. It was a play that didn't end up meaning anything last night. But he drives the paint, does kind of a little hesitation, hop step, and then he jumps in the air as both defenders get to him. And he's not jumping up in the air as a panic, oh crap, what am I doing? He's jumping up in the air to increase the angle on a pass. And he takes both hands over the defender's shoulders and then throws back behind him in front of another defender who is sealed out under the rim. I think it was the Siakam or Turner. And it ends up being a foul. But I'm just sitting there watching the play and going, that's an insane pass. Like, nobody else in the NBA is making that pass, and he did it on purpose.
And what's incredible to me, because all of what you said is true. On the flip side, we have, oh yeah, by the way, checks notes, the reigning MVP.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is an incredible talent in his own right. Jalen Williams, who had an uneven early start to the playoffs, has been phenomenal of late. Chet's ability to protect at the rim, not just blocking shots, just changing angles, not getting in foul trouble, just being a good player, and then also being able to stretch the floor and shoot threes on the other end. Lou Dort's defense, the way they clamp you down. Again, we talk about styles make fights. We are going to see some incredibly different games. The games where the Pacers win, and I've heard you talk about this with the Knicks series too on the air with Dusty, are going to be in like the 119s, 120s, and we're probably going to see some OKC wins, and I know they don't want to completely slow it down. But when we get to lower scoring games, that's going to be, hey, OKC did what they wanted to do. Lou Dort clamped down Haliburton, and that's going to be fascinating because if Hallie has one of these types of games against OKC, and not that the Knicks aren't great, because the Knicks are.
No.
But if Haliburton has one of those type of games against this OKC perimeter defense, it will go down in history as one of the greatest performances in the history of basketball, regardless of position.
You have a 30-15-10 game with no turnovers in the finals against that OKC defense, brother, that's all time. And that's the thing, is like, that's the thing I'm looking forward to. Like, because everybody's picking OKC, and they rightfully should because of their resume and what they've done through the regular season.
I think it's going to be OKC in 6.
But if the Pacers can somehow pull this off, I think it puts the NBA in a really interesting space.
Yeah, they have to get there first.
No, they do.
And we've got OKC Minnesota tonight. Can OKC close it out? And also tied to that a little bit, if we do get that Pacers OKC final and the Pacers win, Rick Carlisle, are we talking about him as a Mount Rushmore, having done it in Dallas and overcome the onslaught of talent they had to get out of the West to get to that point.
And then take on the Needles.
And then go to Indiana and do it with this group of not cast-offs, that's unfair, but a group of guys that no one thought had any A-listers.
It's not the normal path.
And instead they have like 6 or 7 really good B talents, and they're all elevating and becoming A's. We'll talk about that next on Danny and Dusty on Teddy the Fan.
Check out
Indiana Pacers coach Rick Carlisle is 1 win away, and then the NBA Finals, from accomplishing something that I don't think he's getting enough credit for. That he led the Dallas Mavericks team to their title in 2011 they went through OKC. They faced that Miami Heat loaded team with LeBron and Dwayne Wade. And no one really thought they could do that. Yes, there was Dirk. Yes, there was Jason Kidd. They had pieces, there was no doubt. But they needed to be optimized, and Dirk needed to have one of the greatest playoff runs in the history of basketball. Well, Fast forward a few years, move him a little bit into the Eastern Conference here, and he's kind of doing the same thing again with the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Haliburton is right now having that historic playoff run. They have a bunch of pieces that you'd say, yeah, Pascal Siakam, great player. Miles Turner, great player. They have pieces. They have to all be optimized for them to have any chance. And if Indiana finds a way to win this title, and they're going to be the underdog if they get past New York and then face OKC, if they do it, Rick Carlisle will be the owner of two S-tier, the two most improbable NBA championships of the entire modern era, and he kind of will have done it the same way, optimizing talent that other people discarded as not quite part of their recipes.
And it's really interesting. There are 3 coaches in NBA history who have won titles with multiple teams. The first one, the 2 of them everyone knows. Phil Jackson with the Bulls and the Lakers, and then Pat Riley. Like, those are the 2 guys that everybody knows about winning multiple titles with multiple teams. The other one is Alex Hannum, which nobody knows. So, yeah. So Rick Carlisle would be one of 4 coaches in NBA history to win multiple titles with multiple franchises.
But it is different too.
Oh, but like that's
the starting spot.
That's an insane list.
It's
like,
an insane list.
It shows you, number one, how difficult it is. Number one, to win titles. Number 2, to win them in different spots. Now, Phil Jackson obviously has probably 2 of the greatest collections of all time when you're talking about the dominance of Jordan's Bulls and not Kobe's Lakers, Shaq's
and that's
Lakers.
That's a very important caveat in this whole discussion of greatest coach.
And that's the thing is like, and then Pat Riley has done it with, all-timers in LA and all-timers in Miami.
Right.
So if Rick Carlisle is able to do it with, don't get me wrong, an all-timer in Dirk. Dirk is not on the same level as Shaq or Jordan.
My number 2 power forward all-time, Dirk.
I'm not going to argue with it. For me, it would be KG, but Dirk is on the same
That's fair.
Same tier for me.
No doubt.
Dirk is absolutely my top 15 of all time. But if he doesn't in Indiana, like, all of a sudden, are we looking at Tyrese Haliburton like, oh crap, this is like a weird hybrid of Jason Kidd and Steve Nash? Like, that's the kind of what we're looking at.
It's on the table.
Like, oh, he's one of them dudes. Like, when we talk about the floor raising, like, his floor raising might actually be title caliber floor raising. And when you talk about point guards in the NBA who have been able to do that, Chauncey Billups, Jason Kidd, like, it's like point guards.
It's a short
Magic.
list.
Like,
Yeah,
it's a short list. Isaiah Thomas. Like, it is a dumb short list where you're talking about, because remember, Kidd didn't just help take Dallas to the finals. He took the Nets to the finals too. Like, Kidd is a guy who's he's pain in the ass, but he, as a player, was unbelievably
and
good.
that's been the issue.
Yeah, but
that's what's tarnished his, and not tarnished. That's what's devalued his resume. Is that since he's left the league, not exactly the media's favorite person.
No, he doesn't endear himself to folks in public.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And look, Carlisle's a red ass. He him and Luka had like real issues in Dallas, and Jamal Mosley would kind of became like the go-between and the relationship guy. But talking to people in Indiana over the last couple of years is that Rick has kind of mellowed out. Don't get me wrong, he's still got that in him. Remember how irritated he got when the whole underrated thing came out about Haliburton, and he went to bat for his guy, which you should do as a coach. But you could tell he was pissed about it. And
Overrated.
I said underrated. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the overrated. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But he's mellowed out a little bit.
He's 65.
Yeah, and like
he's grandpa age.
Yeah.
He went from
He's gone-
dad coaching.
he's Popovich.
to grandpa coaching.
Pop was made Tony Parker cry.
Yeah,
like-
that's wild.
Like, he used to get after dudes, and like, don't be wrong. And obviously before the stroke, Pop had mellowed out. Like, there was like, when they come into Portland and he drops off his wine, and like, there's Pop on camera and there's Pop off camera. And in the half dozen, 10 conversations that I've had with Pop off camera, out of media stuff, some of my favorite conversations I've ever had in basketball. Because
How
it's
do you just run into Pop?
in the hallways.
Okay, so still in the basketball
Yeah,
sphere.
yeah, but like,
we're still in the basketball sphere.
Yeah, no,
it's
but
not like, hey, we went out to an Italian
Well,
place.
no, I have run into him once at a coffee shop.
That's cool.
When they were in town. But
That's cool.
like, you just you learn as you get older. Like the whole Spo was militant as hell in his early years, and he's lightened up a little bit. But like there's this evolution. Like Chauncey when he got here, I'm not saying Chauncey is Spo or Rick or any of those guys, but like Chauncey, remember the first couple months like throwing guys under the bus in the press conference
publicly,
like he's like, I'm gonna do this. Like this is the way it needs to be done.
Times.
Yeah, and it's like then he's like, I probably shouldn't do that. Like
he weaponized the post game quotes.
Yeah,
he really did.
But like you learn how to dance in between that as you get along, or you don't and you never get back in that chair. Like the Adrian Griffins of the world, like
right.
where, you burn bridges real fast in Milwaukee, and the likelihood of him ever getting a head coaching job again, David Blatt.
You don't think he's going to coach again? Huh?
I don't think head coach, probably not. But like that's also why you see coaches that dudes like continually get jobs, because the thing that I always talk about when the difference between NBA and NFL coaching, it's about relationships and like your ability to kind of grow that stuff. But Carlisle, and again, I know we're putting the cart before the horse here, but if Carlisle is able to even be competitive, force this to go like a difficult 6 or go to 7, you have to start looking at Rick Carlisle very differently, but you also have to start looking at Tyrese Haliburton very differently.
And I just wanted to highlight it because I think it's under discussed. I think the fact that we don't talk about Rick Carlisle as potentially on the precipice of put that ring on and he becomes an all-time great in an indisputed way. Yeah. That, like you mentioned, only 3 other coaches
have ever. Man.
It's an absolute monster stamp. And you don't hear it talked about enough behind the great game of Haliburton, behind Pascal Siakam. Mm-hmm. It's a narrative that kind of goes under the current. And yet I think historically, if the Pacers can do it, 2 things. It will crown Haliburton as a generational creator. Mm-hmm. And I think that term is overused, but it will. He will be a generational creator. And we will talk about Rick Carlisle as a potential Mount Rushmore guy. And people will think that comes from out of nowhere.
And they'll go, wait.
And it doesn't.
No.
And it doesn't. But first, they would have to get through. They would have to get through likely OKC, who's facing the Timberwolves in Game 5 tonight. We'll talk about the matchup preview next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
Window Nation.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City as the Thunder look to finish off the Timberwolves this evening. 5:30 tip on ESPN. Coverage across the hall on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Thunder are 8.5-point favorites. The Mariners and Nationals, they're at it again tonight for the second of a 3-game set. George Kirby making just his second start of the season for Seattle. Trevor Williams going for Washington. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners still holding a 1.5 lead over the Astros in the AL West. And Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final in Raleigh, North Carolina, as the Hurricanes look to avoid elimination at the hands of the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT and Max. The Panthers -115 on the money line, while the Hurricanes -105. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. TennAnyTheFan.com.
It's back. The 11th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club happens Tuesday, June 24th. Presented by your local Toyota dealers. Reserve your foursome now at 1080thefan.com. This is Danny and Dusty.
What in God's name is going on in here? What was that ruckus?
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
What ruckus? I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app.
Did you describe the ruckus, sir?
And 1080.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
The Fan.
Hour 2 of Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan. No Dusty the Boss Man. You do get an Andrew Nemec, you do get a Danny Meringue, and you get a Jeff Rust in the booth. We were talking about and previewing Game 5 of OKC, Minnesota tonight, ESPN, 5:30 tip. OKC's got a chance to close this out, and I honestly think the most interesting storyline is potentially, listen, we've crowned SGA, phenomenal player, reigning MVP. He's great. Lou Dort, incredible defensively. Jalen Williams had to answer the bell in the last series, and there were some questions about him being inconsistent, and he kind of did. I want to see, with his back up against the wall, after a lethargic first half and a seemingly exhausted second half, how Anthony Edwards comes out. You are supposed to be the leader of one of the top handful of teams in the NBA. I think the face of the league conversation is tired, but you are one of the top few young stars in the league. And you have gone 3, 4, 5-minute stretches in major playoff basketball where I forget you are on the court. Yes, OKC's defense is phenomenal. However, great players rise up in big moments. The stage is yours, Anthony Edwards. What will you deliver?
And that's the thing is, the game plan that Oklahoma City Thunder rolled out last game, going box and one, and basically saying anyone beat us but Ant Edwards. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. In that, God dang it! Oh God, I hate these allergies. But you have to take what the defense gives you to a point. Right. And I kind of went through this a little bit yesterday, and the seminal series for Damian Lillard was getting his ass handed to him by the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah.
It was Drew Holiday picking him up, Rondo helping, and Anthony Davis roaming and saying, we're going to live with Al Farouk Aminu threes and Mo Harkless threes. We truly don't give a damn.
It forever changed the way he approached the game. It did.
And it was like, I need to learn that, yes, I need to take what they give me, but I can't just let them dictate to me where I'm going to go with the ball all the time. They're saying, here's Farouk, go for it. That can't, like, at some point in time, you have to break the glass in case of emergency.
So are you trying to say that when they say, hey, throw it into oven mitts Rudy Gobert, that may not be the Timberwolves' best option in Game 5?
And that's the thing is, like, number one, Rudy has to be better. God, I'm getting killed by my allergies right now. Rudy has to be better. Randall cannot be 1 for 7 bad.
Right.
I mean, that was atrocious. And I don't expect him to be, because he's been, outside of that game, he has been incredibly good. He's been one of the best players in the playoffs. Full stop.
Yes.
Like, he's like, but
if you did an all playoff team, he'd probably be second team.
Yeah, he's been a dude through and through.
Yep.
I think I saw a Shea Serrano tweet. It said that whenever Rudy Gobert touches the basketball, it looks like he's trying to pick up a beach ball while wearing boxing gloves.
Yeah, which is insane because Rudy Gobert's hands are the size of dinner plates.
He has been a level of uncoordinated bad that you rarely see in the end. It's not just like, okay, he's having an off series.
Yeah.
It's like you seem uncoordinated and you're having an off series. It's bad. Him getting the ball is a minus. It is a bad thing.
And it doesn't make any sense because I want to say it was Rudy's rookie year with the Jazz. He was at Summer League, and we're in the back gym because it's Utah and Portland playing in the back gym because they weren't picking very high. And but this is a decade plus ago. It was like 12 years ago is Rudy's rookie year. And it's like high school style bleachers in the back gym at the Thomas and Mack Center. And they have like a little area roped off for NBA personnel and media. And I'm sitting over there talking to a scout, and I was kind of like, you're doing that thing where you kind of lean back across a couple sections of bleachers. And I was talking to somebody from the Jazz, and Rudy comes up, and I kind of knew who he was from the draft, and I was like, oh crap, this kid's huge.
You mean before he was like, oh, the COVID guy?
Yeah. But he sees me kind of like stretched out across the bleachers, and he's just being a smart ass. This is like part of like who Rudy is, right? And he comes down and he sits down next to me and kind of mimics the exact pose that I have, except he eats up like 4 more rows.
Right.
He's so long. He's so rangy. And I'm just like,
he's huge.
This looks like one of the aliens from Men in Black, the worm people.
Yeah.
But 7'2".
Right.
Like he's everything about his torso is like exaggerated. Everything about his arms and legs is exaggerated. It's like a Stretch Armstrong. And to like think that guy can't do some very fundamental things with touch and finishing around the rim, it is a real issue for them. Now, we've also seen him have games where he's been a monster. He had like a 27-21 game earlier in the playoffs. He was phenomenal. It was like, like he looks like Prime Hakeem right now. What is happening? No, he doesn't need to do that. But he has to be a weapon. He has to be a guy that is functional above replacement level on offense. But also Ant has to find a way to occasionally split that defense. And it's a lot of work. That's the thing is like
it's exhausting.
That's the thing is like you have to know like and we talk about Oklahoma City earning their stars, and that's kind of what they've done over the last couple of years. It's the same in Minnesota, but like with Minnesota, Ant's a couple years younger than SGA.
Right.
And so he probably needs to earn those scars. And for him, this might kind of be that New Orleans series for him that goes, I need to understand that if somebody throws this at me, this is how I need to go about it. I need to stretch it out a little bit further. I need to string this out a little bit longer. I need to be a little bit more aggressive here. I need to know when I can split 2 here. I need to know I need to get off this quick and then cut and get it back so I can be a threat off the like. Those are the things you have to kind of figure out, but you can only figure them out in these situations.
Right.
But you hope you can find it out in a win.
Well, speaking to your point of forcing the issue, Anthony Edwards, very quiet game. Led the team in assists, and then the supporting cast, the OKC's, go ahead and let those guys shoot. By the way, it's not that they're bad shooters. It's that Anthony Edwards is what kills you if he breaks everything down. Jaden McDaniels, 9 of 15. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 9 of 15. Dante DiVincenzo, 7 of 11. Naz Reid, 3 of 4. The supporting cast all shot better than 50%. But if you're 1 and 2, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, are borderline no-shows in terms of your scoring until the game's pretty much determined, you're not going to beat OKC.
No.
They're happy with you saying, let Dante DiVincenzo, we're still going to contest. It's not like we're going to give you wide open looks all game, but we'll let you shoot contested threes with option 3, 4, 5, 6. And by the way, the times you do pick and choose your spot, you're going to be exhausted because you have to work so hard to get to that point. You have to go off the screen and then come out of another screen and get the ball and then fight through Lou Dort, and that's physical, and get to the cup, and we're going to foul you. It's exhausting, and I think that's what happened to him last game. The first half, he was passive, and they probably said to him, we need you, big dog.
Oh, they clearly
go.
did because the first 3 possessions were
and he went.
Drives.
And then after that, it was like, this is so much work.
And the part of the issue is that as good as Minnesota is, they need somebody else who can create with the ball in their hands.
Right. Julius Randle can do that for a big, but he's not great. You don't set up your offense through him. Naz Reid, obviously.
Well, and
not.
if he's one of and then with Julius, if he's having a normal game, that works. But
you're still going to get the high turnovers.
Yeah,
he's going to turn the ball.
The 1 of 7 is like, oh, brother, like you both can't have that. They had 20 total shots combined.
Right. NAW, Dante DiVincenzo, those are 3-point shooters. They're not beating you off the dribble. They need one more guy. And bless Mike Conley's heart, because he's had an amazing career. But Mike Conley isn't putting it on the deck and beating you in any series anytime.
If he is, great for him. But
you'll take that.
Yeah.
You'll take that if you're OKC.
And look, I'm one of the biggest Mike Conley guys there is. He's one of my favorite players of the past 15 years. Like I love the way he's played. The little guy, the little engine that always could kind of a deal. But yeah, they're probably going to be outgunned, and OKC is probably going to win tonight. But I would love to see Minnesota stretch this out, if for nothing else. So Indiana maybe can get another night of equal rest, but also, let's see if Ant can learn how to dissect that beast after one day of film.
Is there anything to be learned from the pre-christening of the face of the league in Zion, Ja, Anthony Edwards, and here we are on the precipice of an Indiana OKC final? Ignore the teams.
Sure.
That's not my point.
No, but the face.
And it's right now Tyrese Haliburton and SGA. Yes, there is an element to rising to the occasion. Is this just like what we talked about earlier, where tools, IQ, and feel will allow you to reach that next level? And these are two dudes who have maximized that trio of skill sets. Is it that simple, or is there more to it that it's Tyrese and it's SGA right now?
I think that is where we're kind of at, because who are the Pacers playing? The Knicks. What is Jalen Brunson? He's an undersized. Like, here's what's crazy about
and Brunson has all the feel stuff. He does.
He doesn't have the size,
but he doesn't have the tools. So he's missing one of the three you kind of.
Well, see, I would say he has the tools in the sense of he might have the best footwork in the NBA.
I mean, freakish size.
So you have the physical
IQ.
tools. See, I think the IQ and the feel is there. I think
that's what I mean.
The bigger issue is
he's missing one of the three major pieces.
Because if you look at, again, for Minnesota, Ant does have those things, and he's trying, do you remember Ant 3-4 months ago talking about how I don't want to be the guy that passes the ball?
I did not see that.
Yeah,
but that's alarming.
I'm a scorer.
That's
I'm
alarmingly
shooter,
present in this conference final.
But that's the maturation. That's the realization. And like SGA and Haliburton, I don't think that was ever a part of it for them. Like, they just do what they do. And it's this understanding, this fundamental belief of how things work. And like, they're very different players and they play the game very differently, but they also just play the game differently than basically everybody else. But what's also very interesting is in these four finalists, they're 4 guard-driven offenses.
Yeah.
Like, it's not big driven, it's not wing driven, it's 4 guard driven offenses. Ant, SGA, Jalen, Tyrese.
I think that's somewhat flukish. It's not completely.
It's just interesting
because we could very, very easily
had Boston
or even Denver. And I know Denver's got a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
but if Jokic were here, we wouldn't say the guard thing. You need a facilitator who can score and make others around them better.
And that's the thing, is like, you're looking at the teams that are probably going to go to the finals. What do they do?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot.
Very differently, but the goals they accomplish are very similar.
We're going to have 7 champions.
In 7 straight years.
I wonder, is that a piece of the new collective bargaining agreement? We don't have super teams. Now we have a revolving door of champions. We'll talk about it next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
It's
think you're untouchable.
Word life. This is basic thugonomics. This is basic thugonomics. Word life.
Switching gears a little bit, we've got some breaking news. Oregon star Nate Biddle will withdraw from the 2025 NBA draft and return to school next season, average 14.2 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game. That via John Rothstein. Huge news for the Oregon Ducks. We saw this in football. It seems like we're seeing this in basketball, except for a couple of key places. Obviously, the Ace Baileys, the Cooper Flags of the world are going to go pro. More guys who are on the bubble of being that late first or even second round pick are going back to school because they're getting paid a pretty good amount of money. So they're not missing out. They're not starting that payment clock later in their life cycle. They're getting it now. And I think it's making both the college football landscape and the college basketball landscape a little bit richer.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting. We've talked about the NIL implication, just kind of what it's done to college football. You know, you had the number one recruit in the country all of a sudden end up in Miami a couple weeks ago. It was like, interesting. Wonder what happened there. Money got right. But where the money gets crazy is on the basketball side, because there's less of the guys at the very top. You know, you can talk about Bryce Underwood going to Michigan and getting $8 million. That's great. He got $8 million for 4 years. When you're talking about top 10 recruits or guys that are leaving the NBA and coming back to college, Boogie Flan got $3 million to go to Florida for a year.
Well, we've seen this in the NBA. A one-star impact is much greater when there's 10 people on the playing surface than when there's 22.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the math, folks. The other big thing that I've noticed from years of covering the Nike Hoop Summit is that a lot of the top tier guys, they are 1 year away, not from 1.5 million, but I mean the top tier.
Yeah,
guys.
you're talking about the Cooper Flags, the AJ DeBonsas, like the guys you know are going to be top 5 picks.
They were at the time a March, 9 months away from the multi-million-dollar shoe deal and a pretty good size NBA contract from the jump. And when you only have to, as a handler, as a parent trying to make sure your kid's okay, when you're only handling a runway of 9 months to multi-millions versus in football, it's 3 years. And even in the NIL, when you get paid, it's still 3 years till the big money arrives. In the NBA, it's 1. So it's much more structured, it's much more business-oriented, and there's a lot more on the line. So if you want to bring one of those guys in, stakes are higher, you're paying more.
And when you talk about the top in college basketball, because you don't have 100 guys on your roster that you, like, and again, not all 100 are getting paid, but you have to take care of a quarterback. You have to take care of your left tackle. You have to take care of your DB. You have to take care of your wide receiver. You have to take care of your running back. You have to take care of this.
Yeah.
When you're in basketball, you take care of your top 3.
Right.
They're really taken care of. Now, the other guys are getting money. Don't get it twisted. Like, Alex Caravan is going back to UConn again. And I heard he got $3 million to go back to UConn.
Good for him.
That's
awesome.
That's crazy money. Like AJ DeBonsa to go to BYU. I've heard $8 million for a year. And so you're talking about the guys like now Oregon's interesting because everybody talks about the unlimited NIL and how Dusty plays that down a lot. And I've talked to a lot of guys at Oregon. I'm like, look, man, like, yeah, we have Phil, but Phil doesn't really contribute to the Oregon like you think he does. It's more facilities and buildings and all that kind of stuff.
Here's my thing, hands on it. I don't think Phil gives the most money to Oregon. The other thing I would say, and I think the piece people miss is, and we've seen this across the landscape, we've seen kids get mad about their money and transfer. We've seen kids decommit and say, well, I agreed to $2.5 million. When I got the paperwork, it's actually 1.7. I think the biggest area, potentially, that Phil Knight helped Oregon was, you know how to structure contracts with athletes? You don't, because you've never done it?
We do.
Nike does. Here's the format, so that we don't have the messiness. We don't have the Rashada.
Or what was the quarterback at UNLV where that whole nightmare fuel?
Oh, yeah. He asked for an extra $1 million at the. That's not how it works. There's a structure in place. There's something in place. I also happen to think Oregon is not number 1 in football. In fact, I kind of know they're not number 1. But they are very competitive.
Yeah, again, but on the basketball side, Oregon has missed drastically with basically every 5-star they've ever had.
Hey. Malik Harrison with the spur.
Basically every 5-star that's come through Oregon has been a monumental bust. And I don't.
And by the way, it's like 0 for 8.
And I don't.
It's a long
That's not an
list.
Oregon thing. That is, it feels like where there's not a disconnect between Dan Lanning and the recruiting and the finances and everything. I think there's a disconnect between Dana Altman and what the organization wants and what the school wants the basketball program to be. Whereas Dana Altman is his best when he gets the 3, maybe a 4-star, but chip on your shoulder guy. He reminds me of Tom Crean at Marquette, who won or hell, Kelvin Sampson at Houston. Like, he's just now, like, what makes Houston terrifying is their team is coming back and they have a top 10 recruit in Senac joining them, who was just at the Hoop Summit.
Right.
Like, all of a sudden now it's like, oh God, there's real talent there now. That's terrifying. Dana Altman has he gets Nate Biddle from Central Point.
But Nate Biddle was a borderline 5-star recruit.
But he's not the guy.
No. But that also, I think, factors in with the hit rate.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm playing devil's advocate to your point, I'm saying Oregon's never landed 1, 2, or 3.
No.
Ever. They've never landed a 1, 2, or 3. The Cooper Flag guy, the Zion Williams, they've never landed that guy. No. They've landed guy number 18. Go look at the history of how guy 5-star 17, 18, you said the draft is a short list. Mm-hmm. You get to like 4 or 5 in a good draft, and you're kind of like, he could be a rotation.
Go look at those high school top 100 lists.
He could be a rotation
and you're
piece.
Like, ooh.
So if you're getting guys 17, 18, 19, and by the way, especially early, you're kind of taking flyers on guys that Kentucky, Duke have crossed off.
Yeah.
You're taking flyers. So your hit rate's going to be less than I got John Wall and Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
It's going to be less.
And here's the thing.
However, you still have to deliver on those guys with some wins. And some NBA contracts.
And Dana's been very good with those the lessers. They're, again, good players, but they aren't the top billing guys.
Dylan Brooks,
yes,
Tyler Dorsey, Peyton Pritchard, all top 100 guys. Mm-hmm. None of them just a bona fide 5-star.
Exactly. And Biddle was a guy. Some publication the other day had Nate Biddle going in the first round. I'm like, he's not even going to get drafted. And it's like, guys, please don't do this. But it doesn't mean Biddle's bad. Like, I know scouts in the league are like, look, man, he's 7 foot tall. He can knock down threes and he can block shots. Like, he's gonna, like, I've brought this up God knows how many times. Do you know what the hit rate is if you're a 7 foot tall male of making the NBA?
Isn't it like 9 to 10% of all humans on Earth?
18%.
18. That's
18% of all 7 foot males will get an opportunity in the NBA because it's a scarcity.
And you're not saying of guys who played in college. It's literally
on the planet.
You're 7 feet tall. 18% chance you're a hooper.
Because if you're 7 foot tall, you're in like the 0.001% of humans on the planet, and so they're gonna give you a chance. Like, does that mean you're gonna be in the NBA? No. Does it mean you're gonna get a look? Yeah, you're gonna get a training camp deal. You're gonna have an opportunity in the G League. Like, you're gonna get a look because it's such a rare thing. But with Biddle, I think going back, go get some money. Good for you. I got nothing against the kid. I think he has a chance to get, like, let's say he goes out and he picks up where he left off at Oregon, which he closed the season incredibly well. I went to that Oregon-Rutgers game.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
He was a monster. And I was like, I could see him on the back end. Like, if you told me he was like Jay Huff, like, not as explosive as Jay Huff, who plays for the Grizzlies, but he's a shot-blocking, balding white guy.
What if he's just a longer Drew Eubanks?
Fine.
What if he's just, I mean,
different games, but like
different games.
If you're the third big man, look, man, you could go making $2 million a year to play basketball and play 10 minutes a night is a hell of a living.
Yeah, he's going to play more minutes at Oregon, but he might get that $2 million.
Yeah, but like it's really interesting. And why this is breaking news is here in just a little bit. It's the deadline withdrawal date for the NBA draft because we're less than a month away. We've already seen some bigger names returning to school. Todd Pettiford went back to Auburn. Boogie Flan transferred from Arkansas to Florida to that absolute demon.
You want to talk about a team that could go back to back?
Oh God,
that Florida team.
Alex Condon's coming back.
Stacked.
Yeah, I mean they brought in the point guard from Princeton, Xavier Lee. Like, they are just loaded to the gills. But you look at college basketball, I genuinely believe that NIL is going to do wonders, not just for college basketball. College basketball last year was great.
Yes,
it was genuinely great.
Well, four of the best teams in the last 20 years came from the Final Four of this group. And because guys are going back because they're getting paid.
Depth, experience, opportunity. And like the fact that it was never going to happen, but the fact that it was a discussion, that it was a 1% chance of happening, that Cooper Flagg could go back.
He wasn't going back.
But no, I was sitting at a table before a Blazers game with, it was me and a bunch of scouts and pro personnel directors from another team.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about Cooper and kind of where he was as a player and kind of projecting him. And one of them brought up, when was the last time in college basketball that the best player came back to college? The best player in the country came back to college. And I started kind of racking my head.
Edey.
But he wasn't like...
No, he
was
won player. Won player of the year,
but he wasn't the best player.
He wasn't actually the best player.
It was J.J. Redick.
Yeah,
J.J. Redick was the last player
he was great
like,
as a sophomore at Duke, and he was good as a freshman. He was elite as a sophomore.
He played all 4 years at Duke.
Yeah.
In his junior year, he was a first-team All-American. I think he averaged like a 19 or 20 a game.
Yeah.
I mean, synonymous with, like, he was the best player in the country. And I think it was 05, 06 that he came back. That's the last time that, like, the legit best player in the country came back. And it was like, somebody goes, I've heard that Cooper could get upwards of $20 million to come back.
Can you imagine?
Because, Duke probably pays him 10 because they'll make that back in spades, and it's private school. You don't have to care about it. It's whatever. But New Balance is going to chip in probably another $5 million. Even though he's wearing Nikes, he's going to wear New Balance everywhere else and be in all the ads,
right.
all that kind of stuff. And then whatever other NIL deal to make up the other 5. Like, that was like a feasible thing. Like, it was very unlikely. But the fact that it even is a discussion
is
so different from the last 20 years.
Massive evolution for basketball. And I think more than that, and that's a good point. I think more than that, players 4 through 25.
Mm-hmm.
That player who's like, I'd probably go like 8th or 9th because I'm limited athletically, but I'm a great player.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's coming back. And that's maybe 15 guys
from
the first round potentially. That matters.
A guy that might have gone at the end of the lottery. So the highest I've heard of go was like 15, 16, 17 is Yaxel Lindenberg. He's going back to Michigan.
That's huge.
I think he got $3 million to go to Michigan, 3 or 4 to go to Michigan. And he was a guy I know a lot of people were like, I could see him as low as like 23, 24, as high as 15, 16. But like, if he goes back, he's a quote unquote year older. But I'm telling you right now, NBA coaches don't want kids.
Right.
Unless the kid is Victor Wembanyama, unless the kid is Cooper Flagg, they don't want to develop guys.
Because of IQ and feel. Going back to the point we had, it matters for MVP level players. Yep. It matters for your 8th guy. If you have IQ and feel in the NBA,
and you develop that
infinitely better because you're prepared mentally to make the strides and make the progress.
Look at Tumani. Look at Tumani. It's a perfect
second team defense.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. He plays 4 years in college, and he just, because he had different roles. This is a guy who played with Ant Edwards.
Yeah,
that stuff just matters, man.
Next up, worst of the web. But first, here's Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys into whom you can place your trust. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on the fan, we've got Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals tonight in Oklahoma City as the Thunder look to finish off the Timberwolves. 5:30 tip on ESPN. Coverage across the hall on 910 ESPN. Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Thunder are 8-point favorites. CBS Sports' John Rothstein reporting Oregon center Nate Biddle will withdraw from the NBA draft and return to school. Biddle averaged 14.2 points and 7.6 rebounds per game last season. Over on the diamond, Mariners and Nationals at it again tonight for the second of a 3-game set. George Kirby making his second start of the season for Seattle. Trevor Williams throwing for Washington. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners start the day with a game and a half lead over the Astros in the AL West. In Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final in Raleigh, as the Hurricanes look to avoid elimination at the hands of the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT and Max. Each team minus 110 on the money line. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
More, please. Golf in the Northwest with Jason Swigart is back. Saturdays at 8 a.m. before the Sinner and the Saint on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
That sucks.
God, I love Florida. It is the state that just keeps on giving. And it has a little bit of tie-in locally because it's about ducks. I came across this headline this morning, Cape Coral, Florida. Duck terrorizes Florida neighborhood, sending one to hospital. A duck.
What?
A duck that is biting people.
We had a segment in the club on primetime last week, and we said what would be the smallest animal you could ever get clout from killing with your bare hands. And we landed on bobcat because they're vicious.
Oh, God, yeah. Murder kitten? Oh, God, yes.
They're vicious. But if you get into like skunk, if you get into raccoon, I'm not impressed that you choked out a raccoon.
I don't know, man.
I'm not impressed by it. You should be able to, if it's mano a mano to the death and a raccoon attacks you and you lose, I think you're
I'm just gonna say you're gonna come out scarred.
Yeah, but that wasn't the debate. The debate was
I wouldn't go bobcat. I think that's too
if
big.
If someone gets a bobcat, they're only like 12 to 14 pounds.
Oh, I know,
but if someone gets a bobcat, you're like, dang, seriously, you survived? Good for you.
I would go same murdery claws, but I'd go badger or wolverine.
See, but I think automatically those are yes. If you with bare hands, if you're attacked by a wolverine or a badger and you survive, that's an automatic like good for you.
That's
small, but
demon.
Those are higher, I think.
Okay,
We're talking smallest possible animal that if you strangled to death because it was attacking you. And the reason it came up is there was a News of the Weird story about a small coyote that was only like 18 or 19 pounds. And we're like, that doesn't even meet the threshold.
We were playing Glendoveer East 2 weeks ago, and I was really surprised. Number one, this coyote came out on the golf course and like sat down right next to us. And number one, it was clearly just cool with people, which coyotes typically aren't. But
right.
They really just have problems with roadrunners.
Right. But it was in great.
I see what you did there.
But it was in great shape. Like it wasn't mangy looking. Like it was like had this bright red coat on it.
He had an athletic confidence.
And I was like, damn, dude, that coyote's in good shape. He's hitting like the coyote on Anavar. It's like the influencers of coyotes. I'm like, why do you look? But it was funny. It just like sidled up to this pond where these ducks are just taunting it. And I'm like, so this is a whole different tangent. For 20 years, my family had a dog breed. Actually, they have one now, so I guess longer now. They're called Nova Scotian duck tollers.
Okay.
And they kind of look like a fox on steroids.
Oh, okay.
And
how many pounds, roughly?
The biggest one we had was 60.
Okay,
they're good sized dog.
Like a German Shepherd or a Lab size at their biggest.
Yeah, they're absolute biggest. The 60s, like that's a big dog for that breed. We had one that was about 50, and the one we have now is about 50.
Okay.
And but see, the thing is, like foxes and coyotes, they don't go in the water. They don't. The Nova Scotian duck tollers look kind of like it, and they kind of like trail the water. Like they have webbed paws.
Interesting.
They swim.
Okay.
And so what they'll do is, we took them bird hunting, duck, upland game, and
I already see where this.
Oh
is
yeah,
going.
no, they were demons. They would toll the water, and the ducks would come in close
because they're used to it
to taunt
You're
them.
not coming in,
and then they get hit in the face with a bunch of 12 gauge buckshot. And it's like, thank you very much. And then he trolls out there and swims out there and brings them back. This dog literally swam across the Willamette. Like that's how good of a swimmer he is.
That's elite.
But this coyote was sitting there, and you could tell he was just getting irritated with these ducks. And I will tell you, ducks and geese are a-holes.
Yes. This I'm aware of.
So one of those dogs could no longer be a hunting dog because he got broken by a goose. When he was a pup, we were out goose hunting, and a lot of times you don't kill a goose with the first shot. So geese are flying over the top of us, and you're using what's called triple BB. It's heavier steel BB. And you don't use like traditional like small like bird shot. It's the heavier BB. And the goose hit the ground, and you do what's called sluicing him, which is you shoot him on the ground and finish him off, or you grab him by the head, spin him around, break the neck.
It's nice you call it sluicing instead of like
whatever. Yeah, splitting
whatever,
him open.
whatever you could say.
Yeah, and he went out to go get it, and the goose pecked him on the face hard.
Oh,
and
no.
it was a pup, and it kind of
It scared
him.
like broke his
it broke his hunting spirit.
mentally.
Yeah.
It's like the OKC defense on Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, exactly. It broke his spirit. Great family dog, loved him to death, but he was no longer a hunter. Same opportunity appeared for the younger dog. Goose pecked him on the face, and he backed up about 10 feet and ran as hard as he could, lowered his head, battering rammed it to the ground, grabbed it by its neck, and snapped its neck. And I went, oh, you're a hunter. So, but yeah, no, waterfowls are complete D-bags. And including this one in Florida, where this guy got sent to a hospital because a duck bit him on the hand so hard that it busted him open.
You see, they don't quite meet the threshold of I'd be impressed if you strangled it. That being said,
It's a long neck.
if a duck is
yeah.
really pissed off at you,
Mhm.
it's going to make for an awkward jog. You're not going to have a good time if you're on a run and a duck sees you and is like, I think I'm going to mess with that guy.
See, the duck, being around them a ton, not bothering me. If the duck comes at me, I'm letting it come, and I'm going to grab that thing by the neck, and I'm going to snap it like a twig.
I think my whole thing...
The goose, though? The goose?
They're bigger.
You got to kind of... You got to dance with them a little bit. It's a lot more bird to deal with. It's a lot more neck range. It can reach out, and it's going to get you a few times. The swan's the real jerk.
Well, they're huge.
They're huge, and they're mean.
Really mean.
They're
Yes.
really mean. But the birds, like, unless we're talking about like the raptor world, the pheasant's the one that's a pain because it's got claws.
See, this is so far out of my realm. And you could honestly tell me anything. You could be like, you know what's one of the most deadly birds in America? The chucker.
Yeah.
It will tear you apart. And I'd be like, really?
Now you gotta
Fascinating.
You gotta watch out for the ones with the claws, man. Those
They
the
really-
ones, yeah.
they-
They're
tear you
sharp,
up.
man. They'll tear you up.
Okay.
But
But this should not have registered for the Florida man.
no, again, of all of the demons and devils in Florida, like, I mean, have you what's that guy's name? Garrett, the new Steve Irwin, the guy that yoinks pythons. Have you seen him on social media?
Yes, I love that dude.
So this guy walks around in the Everglades barefoot, and his whole deal is like helping get rid of the invasive species because some D-bags in Florida 20 years ago started releasing pythons.
Oh,
and-
look, it's a swamp puppy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's alligators and crocodiles that are 8, 9, 10 feet, and you're just like, I'm sorry, dude. And there's 40 of them, and he's just picking them up and gently yoinking them.
He says yoink. Every time he grabs an animal, he says yoink, or swamp puppies will get too close. He calls them swamp puppies every time. In almost every video, there's a swamp puppy. And he goes, oh, this swamp puppy's hungry.
Yeah.
Hey, little guy. And he flips his hand at him, and they panic and take off.
Yeah, or boops him on the
Until
snoot.
he dies.
Yeah, no, the fact that this guy hasn't died yet, like getting full Steve Irwin, is insane. He makes trips to the Amazon in search of like a 30-foot anaconda.
Also still barefoot, by the way.
Barefoot. Again, if you've never been through an actual rainforest, it is unhinged behavior to walk through a rainforest barefoot. Everything there wants, it's Australia. Everything wants to kill you. The insects, the foliage, the animals, everything wants to kill you. It makes no sense. But this guy just goes through, he's like, oh, here's a highly venomous spider. Here's a highly venomous this, highly venomous, and he's like,
and he's not just like really surprising him. He does get the right angle where he gets him behind the head. But also, if you're an animal, as someone's about to grab you, if you go yoink into your microphone, it would seem like one time one animal in the history of his existence would go, what? And bite.
Like unhinge his jaw and bite.
Yeah.
You're just like, how are you not dead?
What in the world is this?
Yeah, it's
and my daughter loves him. My daughter absolutely loves his videos.
It's nuts.
It's
but
really cool.
This guy will go into the Everglades and pull out, I'm not kidding, like 40, 50, like 20-foot pythons.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Like he's just buckets
He has
of
a
them.
collection of them and then multiple containers for them.
And apparently chameleons. It's like somebody released chameleons into the wild in Florida too, so they're invasive. And so he grabs all of these animals that aren't supposed to be here as part of the ecosystem. But ducks are a part of the ecosystem in Florida. This one is so off the hinges. They called the wildlife refuge to come deal with it. But apparently, I didn't know this. This particular duck breed, whatever it is, Muscovy, it's protected by federal law and cannot be removed. So this
They're just stuck with this demon duck.
This demon duck has like full-on property rights. So they just got to deal with him one way or another. And knowing Florida man, I feel like Florida man's going to have this for dinner here pretty soon. There are going to be some jalapeno duck poppers. I had a similar situation. Yeah, it's the spotted owl, I think is what it is protected here in Oregon. And in my old house, I had this about 110-foot tall old growth pine tree in the front of the house. And I used to sleep with my window open all the time because I liked the cool air coming in. And one night, woo-hoo, 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 like just would not stop hooting. I grabbed my shotgun, walk outside, my big old tactical light on the end of it, pop that thing on, and I am very close to pulling the trigger. And I look at it and I go, grab my phone, searching owls that looks like this, that are federally protected. I'm like, oh, you're so lucky.
Can you throw a shoe at it?
I ended up throwing a rock at it, but it had made its nest.
And there we go.
No, he came back.
Oh.
And I had to deal with him all summer long.
See, I thought we were going to go a different place with this story. I thought we were going to end up, I don't know if you know this, the national championship game in 2026, it's played in Florida.
Oh, there you go.
Is this not a sign?
This duck is going to peck a quarterback in the face?
That the Ducks are going to win the
there
national
you
title
go.
in 2026.
The demon duck.
In order to do that, however, Oregon is going to have to change their momentum because Dan Lanning made a big recruiting splash, and it was a belly flop. That's next on Danny and Dusty with Teddy the Fan. worked in recruiting for about a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the very quick evolutions as things happen with teens. They happen very quickly. The trends come and go very quickly. And there is a very fine line between being relatable and coming across as wildly corny. We saw this with Brian Kelly, posing with recruits, holding up an L, as they did like a 360 camera spin, and he's like dancing.
The good old wedding camera.
I hope you all had a shitty day.
It's real ugly. Oregon, for the most part, whether it's been Mario Cristobal chugging eggs with Cale Millen or Willie Taggart or Dan Lanning, they've mostly been able to meander this world without the real serious egg on your face, not drinking eggs, but egg on your face moments. Dan Lanning had his first one, and boy, is social media having a field day with it. I will say it seemed bad the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Richard Wesley, 5-star defensive lineman out of California, visiting Oregon. They zoom up to him, and he's kind of relaxing, all sprawled out in kind of a Speedo-y outfit near a pool. And he announces he's committing to Oregon. Dan Lanning appears next to him, takes off his shirt. They leap into the pool together, and he announces his commitment. That's fun. You jumped in a pool together for a commitment. I get it. Almost immediately, his family indicates through the grapevine, we're not on board with this. We do not necessarily approve this commitment. If that's where he wants to go in the end, great. Not all the details are ironed out. We are not fully engaged in this commitment, and we'll see what happens. Fast forward 17 days later, Richard Wesley has decommitted and will be visiting multiple schools, including Ohio State, Texas, and I believe Texas A&M. That video has gone from kind of off, just in the moment. There's things that are kind of cool.
Sure.
And then there's things you're like, this doesn't feel quite right. That one didn't. 17 days later, it's really bad.
This is Dan Lanning's Brian Kelly, like you mentioned. It's Lincoln Riley's brisket video. It's, I think every coach gets one of these where you're just like, when you're the elite recruiters, everybody has, like,
Lincoln Riley has his.
Yeah,
at
that's what I'm saying.
USC.
No, I'm saying Lincoln Riley with the brisket, like that was just a brother. What are we doing here?
Spencer Danielson at Boise State openly in a conference says we don't pay our freshmen. Every recruit in the country goes, I don't get paid at Boise State for a whole year. Forget that. You don't have to say the thing. You don't have to do the thing. But here's where, and that's a recurring segment I've had on my show, is coaches who say or do the thing, and then we highlight it and say, you didn't have to do that.
Well, Dabo, we're not going to the transfer portal. It's like, well, why would you say that? Because now you can't.
Give it 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Just give it a little time.
You don't have to fire that one off.
You're not Army. You're not Navy. You're not the Air Force. Use every tool at your disposal. There's no debating.
Those are the only schools that don't have the transfer portal.
Sometimes in recruiting, and Mario Cristobal is a master of this, coaches will, and people don't realize this, stack commitments. A kid will commit, and they say, we love that you committed. It's awesome. We're going to wait till we have some bad news. You're locked in? Great. We love it. Don't tell everybody publicly you're committing. We'll let you know when you can strike that match, when you can release that. And you keep them in the tuck so that when you miss out on, say, I'll just throw it out there, Jackson Cantwell, the #1 recruit in the nation, to Miami. And then right around that time, Jared Curtis, the #1 quarterback in the nation, chooses Georgia over. But if you're not certain about the countermeasures you take to stave off that momentum, you can double down. And really, for the first time, we saw decommitment today from a 4-star former recruit who signed with Oregon and has now gone back to BYU. He's gone back and forth with Oregon and BYU a couple times. We're starting to see a pattern here that I think will get reversed. I think Oregon still ends up with a top 10 class where they missed out on a couple of guys, and I think they've kind of forced the issue a little with a couple of guys to fill that spot and say, let's change the momentum. Let's fix this.
And you see this happen to Georgia. You see this happen to Alabama. This is not a Oregon unique thing.
And it's the first time ever that rather than guzzling the eggs to celebrate a commitment, a head coach at Oregon has a little egg on his face when it comes to recruiting and the buzz they've built.
No, that's part of the deal, is that you put yourself out there, which Oregon does. They have a machine behind them that does it a certain way, that you have to be willing to live with every now and then. You're going to get bit.
If you support the Joey Harrington billboard in New York City,
Mhm.
if you support some of the antics of the Duck mascot when he's on game day,
Yep.
if you support pink as part of the uniform and green and all the variations
Yep,
of black
the chrome,
and yellow
yep.
and chrome as part of the uniforms, you also have to accept Dan Lanning jumping into a pool prematurely with a recruit.
It just happens.
It's going to happen.
Like when you're trying to live on the cutting edge and be out front and be as popular and use the branding arm that is Oregon, is every now and then compare it to like the commercial space, the Wyden Kennedys of the world. Like they've had so many bangers of commercials, in the Super Bowl space. Every now and then though, that's the marquee spot for commercials and everything that kind of comes with that. Every now and then one flops. And that's when you're trying to live that life. And again, this is not an Oregon problem. This is when you're one of the preeminent top 10 programs in the country, this is what happens. You get the, hopefully not the Jaden Rashadas, but you get these situations that pop up because you're dealing with 17 and 18-year-old kids.
And by the way, a far bigger issue in the spectrum of college football miscues is Mario Cristobal not taking a knee, running the ball, and they lose that game. And when we talk about recruiting today and they've landed Jackson Cantwell, no one talks about that. This will be flushed within a week.
Yeah, but
and I'm already seeing people talk about, like, has Oregon lost its stride? They're going to end up with a top 10 class.
Yeah.
They're going to be just fine. But it is worth mentioning because I think for the first time, Oregon got caught not pre-prepared for the negativity, and they forced something. And when you force something, sometimes you double down on the egg on your face. I want to stay in this, we'll call it down bad.
There you go.
We'll call it a down bad theme right now. And I want to look at franchises. The New York Knicks potentially going to be eliminated soon. This might touch on the Bears. It might touch on the Mariners. It might touch on the Blazers. We're going to play a fun little game with down bad franchises next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
I'm Michael.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City tonight as the Thunder look to finish off the Timberwolves. It's a 5:30 tip on ESPN. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Thunder are 8-point favorites. CBS Sports' John Rothstein reporting Oregon center Nate Biddle will withdraw from the NBA draft and return to school. Biddle averaged 14.2 points and 7.6 rebounds per game last season. Over on the diamond, the Mariners and Nationals at it again tonight for the second of a three-game set. George Kirby making his second start of the season for Seattle. Trevor Williams for Washington, 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final in Raleigh as the Hurricanes look to avoid elimination at the hands of the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT and Max. Each team minus 110 on the money line. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Portland, if you've ever wondered where to get your Blazers, Ducks, and Beavs, it's right here on the airwaves of 1080. 1080 The Fan with Danny and Dusty. It's Danny and Dusty and Rust from noon till 3.
Every time I hear that, I laugh. However, it is not Danny and Dusty and Rust. It's Andrew Nimick, Danny Meringue, and Jeff Rust this time filling in for Dusty, the boss man, Hera. Want to start off hour 3 with a little concoction of mine, the Down Bad Draft Franchise Edition. This is something I've played with my friends. I love this game. There is an unnamed positive version of this, but in honor of the New York Knicks likely being eliminated, certainly being down 3-1 to their rival Indiana Pacers, it is time for the Down Bad Draft. The rules of the Down Bad Draft Franchise Edition. We are going to select franchises that are the most difficult to root for because of championship drought, because they've gotten ridiculously close multiple times and fallen short of a championship, because they've been consistently awful. You get bonus points for that, or you get bonus points for a key injury, a lottery miss, any type of odds heartbreak that goes outside of your own doing. Bad luck. We're picking from all 4 pro sports leagues in North America. That is Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL. The nominees: in the NBA, the New York Knicks, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Sacramento Kings, and the Charlotte Hornets. In the NFL, the Detroit Lions, the Cleveland Browns, the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, the Chicago Bears, and the Arizona Cardinals. In Major League Baseball, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Cleveland Guardians, the Seattle Mariners, and the Oakland/Las Vegas A's. And in the NHL, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, Buffalo Sabres, and Vancouver Canucks. We are each taking 3 franchises, and the text line will let us know whose franchises are the worst. We are trying to, as owners, compile the 3 worst franchises that we possibly can. The text line will determine it. The text line, that fan line, is 503-864-6326. We will be determining the first pick with a flip of the coin. Call it in the air.
Heads.
It is heads.
Hey,
you have
there we
a
go.
first pick in the Down Bad franchise.
I'm debating which way I want to go with this. Do I want to go with the pure sloppiness of just dysfunction, disarray, and stupidity, of which in the NFL and the NBA there are 2 very, very, very clear winners? Or do I want to go down the path of you have been so close so many times only to be punched squarely in the face? That to me hurts more because it's the old line, don't give me hope.
Yeah.
Don't give me hope. And so I think I'm going to go down that path.
Okay.
I have a couple buddies, some of my best friends that are fanatical Buffalo Bills fans. To lose 4 straight Super Bowls has got to be part of the most dysfunctional just unabashed, gut-wrenching hellscapes of any franchise, in any fandom ever, and yet they have one of the best fan bases in sports. The Bills Mafia is fantastic. The table jumping, willing to snowplow paths to the stadium,
They are diehards, and they have died hard.
They have
times.
died the hardest.
I even think the 2021 game, even almost more than the Super Bowl, the 2021 13-second game, in which they take the lead over the Chiefs. Mahomes somehow in 13 seconds gets them in field goal range, and then, of course, inevitably, the Chiefs win the coin toss and score in overtime. I honestly think that's even more of a gut punch almost than a Super Bowl, because
four straight's
insane. But 2021, that might be the greatest playoff game ever, and you're on the wrong side of it. And you did nothing wrong.
No. And that to me hurts so much more than the Cleveland Browns, who have never had anything to hope for at all.
Okay. My pick. I get it. I'm going to pivot. We're going to baseball.
Okay.
The Fighting Drews select the Cleveland Guardians, who last won a a championship in 1948. They have been to 5, not 4, World Series and lost them all. They set a major league record that they only broke last year, in which they lost 11 straight elimination games. Now, here's where I think they trump your Buffalo Bills pick. I think wearing merch, and even if you can suffer collectively, you feel okay about it. There's nothing wrong with a good old red, white, and blue of the Buffalo Bills. And while the Cleveland Guardians have that same color pattern, darker blue, there were a lot of years where, as a fan, you had to wear a wildly racist Indian logo
Chief Wahoo
on all of your gear. So you even kind of felt bad supporting them gear-wise. Then you get to pivot. And you get to pivot to any name in the world. In fact, you know what? You used to be the Cleveland Spiders. So here's
it was there for you.
Here's a lay-in. You could be the Spiders. How cool is that? And you select the Guardians.
And your logo is based off of the outline of Chief Wahoo.
And you suddenly go from a logo that is wildly embarrassing with a franchise that has epic levels of losing in elimination games to the same narrative, but now you're the freaking Guardians.
Yeah.
And you can't feel good about go. What do you chant? What do you say?
It sucks. It's a team name from a movie.
So I think that's why they're worse than the Browns. The Browns' colors are awful.
Yeah.
But you can check out on the Browns in week 5. You're fine. Whatever. The Guardians have been to 5 World Series and lost. They've been to 11 straight elimination games in the 90s into 2000s and lost. They are my pick with my first overall selection.
It's a good one. And I'm debating which way I go with pick number 2. Do I go with the theme of just being there so many times and just having it ripped away from you? Or do I go to a franchise that has been dysfunctional, but in the one time where you had a legitimate chance to win a title, someone actively conspired against you to take it away?
Oh, I know where you're going.
And I think that's the one I have to go with.
Okay.
Because it's the Sacramento Kings.
There we go.
Because they have sucked for so long. They are the Kangs, Kangz. But when they weren't, they should have gone to the NBA Finals and won a title, if not for Tim Donaghy.
Yeah. They would have been in.
There was a period for 3 years where the 3 best teams in basketball were the Los Angeles Lakers, the Sacramento Kings, and the Portland Trail Blazers. Those are the 3 best teams in basketball, all in the Pacific Conference. And whoever came out of the series featuring those 2 teams was going to win the title. That's what was going to happen. And Tim Donaghy conspiring and taking away, again, from a great fan base, Cowbell Kingdom, stand up, to take away their one fleeting moment of joy, to memorialize and idolize Mike Bibby, Jason Williams, Vlade Divac,
Peja,
Chris Webber, if that team wins a title, the way you talk about every single one of those guys is so different.
Yes.
Look at the clout that Paul Pierce has off of one title. And the way those Celtics players talk about that team all the time, like, you won a title.
Paul Pierce pooped himself on the court, and he's still the great Paul Pierce.
Because you win a title.
Because he won a title.
And those guys would never, ever have to pay for and again, they almost don't, because Doug Christie's out there coaching the Kings now, and they're bringing the gang back together, and Vlade Divac is back with the organization. Mitch Richmond's on the coaching staff. Like that's how important those guys all are. And had they gotten that title, what it would have been 1977 for the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
That's what where the Blazers have that one thing. Yes, they have all of the pain and suffering, but you can point to at least that one. Because without that one, what is it all for?
I get it. I'm with you. With my second pick, I'm going off the beaten path a little bit here, but I need you to bear with me.
Okay.
No pun intended. I am taking the Chicago Bears.
The worst quarterback franchise in the history of the sport.
And let me lay this out for you, because you just hit the nail on the head. They've been to the playoffs a league low 4 times since 1990. They last won a title in 1985, and in that 85 title, and I think this is the curse, they let William the Refrigerator Perry score a touchdown rather than Walter Payton. So Walter Payton, sweetness, arguably the greatest running back of all time, certainly a Mount Rushmore running back. You took it from him because you were at the 1-yard line. And the ghost of sweetness has haunted them ever since. Some stats about the Bears, again, the lowest number of playoff appearances since 1990. They have never in their history had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. So they've never had an electric offense. Not only that, their all-time leading receiver is Johnny Morris, who played from 1958 to 1967. His career receiving yard total for his whole career was 5,059 yards. That is fewer already than Justin Jefferson. It's within striking distance. I think Jamar Chase in 4 seasons with the Bengals has like 100 fewer.
There you go.
The first name I thought of, and I'm really proud of myself on this, I go, okay, I need to think of like a middling pass catcher that highlights just how bad. Remember, this is the best receiver ever for an entire career. And I went, Todd Heap was just solid for the Ravens. Todd Heap has 5,800. He has 200 yards in his career more than the greatest receiver ever in Bears history. So you're not good, and your offense is absolutely putrid, and the weather sucks. Give me the Chicago Bears.
But you got some titles there.
You got a title.
You got a title and
but
another
it's tainted.
appearance.
But it is so badly tainted. You're defensive-minded, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You're in the cold. There's not a lot exciting. Believe me, I get it. The Bears almost didn't even make this list for me. And then I started looking at the offensive numbers. You are rooting for, in bad weather, 13-9 for 40 years straight.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
And you were clearly the worst quarterback franchise in the history of the sport.
To the point that people say, oh, God, please, God, don't let Caleb Williams, who's by all accounts supposed to make it, don't let him go there.
And Caleb Williams said, I don't want to go here. Like, yeah.
We're going to have to quickly get through our third picks, and then the text line's going to have to vote. But it is your pick.
My last pick, I'm torn between 2 franchises, and I'm gonna continue the trend of just continually falling short, and nobody has fallen shorter with more expectations in their sport and for their country than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, it's a good one.
The love guru himself tried to save them and make it happen. Even the movie felt like it was fake, with Mike Myers out there trying to save Jessica Alba and the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a team that has not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. 67. And they have had so many opportunities and so many stars. And they are the forebearer of hockey in that nation. Montreal, you don't count. You might as well be French Canada. I have a bunch of buddies that are huge hockey fans they're from Canada that are huge Maple Leafs fans. and yet another year with having perhaps one of the best players on the planet where they come up short, and it's happened over and over and over again. It just
They've lost 7 straight game 7s.
That's just the
wild.
record is 10 across sports.
Hey, they're 3 away.
Which is just that's an insane thing to see. Another game like that has just got to be so. The only thing I can think of more crippling than that is 4 straight Super Bowl defeats.
So I have the last pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to take the Cleveland Browns here, but I'm not going to do it. I could take the Portland Trailblazers and talk about Sam Bowie and Jordan. I could talk about Greg Oden
And
over
Durant.
Durant.
Yep.
I could easily do that.
Martell Webster over Chris Paul.
But I don't want to do that to people. Not locally. Not you beautiful people. Vote for me. I'm going to go with the Seattle Mariners. And I have a trump card on this. If you are a Seattle Mariners fan, they are good right now. Do you think the average Seattle sports fan's having a good time watching sports these days? Like the last week or so?
Yeah.
The answer is absolutely no. And the reason is the second iteration, the second superstar iteration of your Seattle Supersonics that were ripped from you and sent to check notes, Oklahoma City, fine. KD, Harden, Westbrook, they came up short. You could live with that. They didn't deserve it because they abandoned you. So to heck with them. Oh, now they get another young team, except they're likable. SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet. What a fun team. What a spunky little squad they've got in OKC. That should be in our own backyard. No. They're in Oklahoma City, and you have to watch your franchise potentially win an NBA title. All while your Seattle Mariners, the actual point of this talking point, have never been to a World Series, 48 years. They set a record for 21 years with no playoff appearances that was broken in 2022. And their 3 biggest stars, 3 of their 4 biggest stars in their history left you. One of them being the coolest, unequivocally, the coolest baseball player in the modern era. Barry Bonds, get your ever-expanding head out of here. It's Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh, yeah. Mr.
Hat backwards, the bubble gum, the gold chain. He leaves you. A-Rod, you pick a guy who's a generational talent, 40-40, early in his career, unbelievable talent. He leaves you. Randy Johnson, nicknamed the Big Unit. You can have so much fun in the bars with a nickname like the Big Unit. He's got a curly mullet. He's 6'11" as a pitcher.
He killed a bird.
He goes somewhere else and wins 4 straight Cy Youngs.
And a World Series.
And a World Series. So the Seattle Mariners not only haven't won a title, but they've also, when they watch their Mariners like they are right now and watch Cal Raleigh, who has hit 2 home runs in a game from the left side, from the right side, and I believe from either side this season. Insane. Even while that's going on, you're being tormented on sports talk radio with how great these spunky OKC players are. So that's my pick.
No, it's a good one. I like it.
So the final tally, the Fighting Dannies select the Buffalo Bills, the Sacramento Kings, and Toronto Maple Leafs. The Fighting Drews select the Cleveland Guardians, the Chicago Bears, and the Seattle Mariners. Let us know on the text line.
One of my favorite Randy Johnson anecdotes comes to us courtesy of local funnyman Ian Carmel, talking about how each portion of Randy Johnson's name could be, if you use a synonym, comes instead of Randy the Big Unit Johnson, you have Horny the Big Penis.
That's true.
Yeah.
See, that's taken from you. That is snatched from you.
And don't forget wasting the careers of Ichiro and Felix Hernandez.
It's terrible. Fact or fluke? Danny does the honors next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
It's Wednesday. It's 2:15-ish. Right on time as always. Chef Rust.
Yeah, perfect.
We're going to burn through this one pretty quick. It's time for Fact or Fluke. Some things we find either fact or fluky. First up, with a win in the NBA Finals, we're putting the cart before the horse here. Tyrese Haliburton can assume the mantle of face of the league. Fact or fluke?
Oh, fluke.
Okay.
If he wins, even if they go 7 games, if SGA has a game in Game 7 where he drops 35, 10, and 8, SGA is the new face of the league.
See, I'm gonna go with fluke, but I'm gonna fight you on the SGA thing because SGA, as great as he is, he's not American. And it does not matter how great your greatness is if you don't have the red, white, and blue on your back in the NBA.
Wow, you're gonna hit him with a Canadian label.
I'm just saying.
He is what he
Jokic
is.
is a better player.
Yeah.
Giannis is a better player. You just go down the list. You could say Embiid in his peak is a better player.
I think that's fair.
And the thing about them is,
but Embiid's done. The peak is over.
Yeah, okay, it's over. But
we can move on from that.
And
Kobe was better. But
Tatum,
it's over.
Tatum's the closest thing, and he's not embraced because he doesn't have the juice, and SGA doesn't have the juice, and he's Canadian.
I think you win a finals and you're a superstar in the finals, and you suddenly gain some juice.
Well, Tatum did, and he didn't get it. Here's the thing. SGA also, his commercials are terrible, and if I have to see one more commercial with him and Chet Holmgren on it, I'm going to blow my brains out.
How dare you?
God awful. All right, fact or fluke number 2. The Timberwolves can extend the series tonight.
Yeah, I think they can extend the series. They were close in the last game.
Yeah, it was a 2-point game.
It was a 2-point game, and Ant was a no-show for 2.5 quarters-ish total, not consecutively. And Julius Randle was, 1 of 7 with 5 turnovers? If those guys play better and the supporting cast continues to stay hot, they can win. Will they win? I don't know. But they absolutely can. All they need is a C-level game from their 1 and 2, who gave them Fs last time around, and it was a 2-point game.
I'm going to go... I really want to say fluke here, but this is it's not the moment, but I think it's one of what could be a lot of seminal moments for Ant Edwards. Even if they go on to lose the series. And that is, I want to see him come out with his hair on fire. I want to see him, the way that the Timberwolves started the game was not good.
Yeah.
It just didn't, you did not have the feeling of you need to win this game.
Okay, Ant, counterpunch time.
And that's what I want to see. So I'm going to say it's a fact because I want to believe Ant Edwards is going to get that done. Last one here on Fact or Fluke. The college football playoff is wide open this year. Fact or fluke?
Fact. I don't know that there's a definitive number 1, 2, or 3 quarterback. I think there's a group that's pretty good, but I don't think we know for sure. That Ohio State team lost a ton. You like Alabama in year 2 under DeBoer. Maybe there's some questions there. Georgia looks good. Miami's got pieces. Oregon looks good. There's a lot of teams. Penn State looks great. There's a lot of teams that I think are going to be firmly in the mix. I think we might get some parity this year where we get into the playoffs and we don't just expect to know who wins. That being said, if there's going to be one, I do think it might be in the Big Ten with the Penn State and Nittany Lions.
I'm going to say fact, and as I look at the rosters around there for the teams that you're going to associate with the top 10, top 15, very few of them are returning quarterbacks. There are question marks in the quarterback room across the country for the best teams in the country. And you can talk about who they've recruited and the ability to get them in there and everything that kind of goes along with that. Whether it's Georgia, whether it's Oregon, whether it's Alabama, whether it's Michigan, whether it's Ohio State, no matter where you look, it is young guy replacing guys that were there for a very, 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 very long time.
Well, even Texas
or in college,
people just assume they've got it figured out.
Arch
we
Manning's
haven't seen Arch be a superstar yet. He could do it. We haven't seen it.
But you alluded to somebody there in Penn State. Penn State seems to be the favored son of college football. Looking at PFF and their forecasting for the 2026 NFL Draft, they currently have 5 of the top 45 players in next year's NFL Draft, as well as having one of the quarterback rooms with a returning quarterback. Can the Penn State Nittany Lions and James Franklin finally get over that hurdle and become the team that wins it all? We'll get to that next year on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop, a great spot for any occasion. And don't forget, you save 10% on your Butcher Shop order when you dine in Menus and more at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on The Fan, Game 5 tonight of the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City as the Thunder look to finish off the T-Wolves. 5:30 tip on ESPN. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Thunder are 8-point favorites. CBS Sports' John Rothstein reporting Oregon center Nate Biddle will withdraw from the NBA draft and return to school. Biddle averaged 14.2 points and 7.6 rebounds per game last season. On the diamond, Mariners and Nationals, they go at it again tonight for the second of a 3-game set. George Kirby, he's got his second start of the season for Seattle. Trevor Williams throwing for Washington. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now hold a 1-game lead over the Astros in the AL West, as Houston has already beaten the A's today 5-3. And on the ice, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final in Raleigh. The Hurricanes looking to avoid elimination at the hands of the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT and Max. Each team minus 110 on the money line. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan.
Big Ten might be wide open this year. A lot of questions. Ohio State and Oregon replacing a lot of pieces. Penn State is not. But you lose an Abdul Carter and a Tyler Warren, maybe the heart and soul of your offense and defense, and you've got questions. Yet, Sports Illustrated predicts that trio, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State, to all have 10.5 wins. That's the over-under. Then there's another tier of Indiana, Michigan at 8.5. I actually kind of like Indiana. Not to win it, but they're better than that. Danny, Penn State bringing back a lot of pieces, and anytime you're bringing back a proven quarterback, and we can debate his potency, but anytime you're bringing back a quarterback that the NFL is circling as a potential first or second round type guy, the expectation should be pretty high.
Look, I am not a Drew Aller fan, as we were talking about, like NFL quarterbacks. I do not buy it in any way, shape, matter, or form. If you want to, fine. He is not my guy. That's my piece on him. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But he's a good college quarterback, and there's only so many of those in the country that have, like, we are finally entering the post-COVID era. So no longer do we have guys who have 5 and 6 years worth of experience coming onto college rosters. So when you bring back a good, competent college quarterback with experience in high leverage games, now we can talk about Drew Aller smoking some high leverage games. He's done that plenty of times, the inopportune interceptions that he is prone to throw, but this is not going to be new territory for him. Whoever is starting at quarterback for Ohio State, if it's saying, fine. If it's Dante Moore at Oregon, fine. They haven't seen it. They haven't had those opportunities. Whoever comes out, if it's Jordan Mailata at USC, he's got a year of mildly leveraged
Don't
games.
try to sneak USC.
No, I'm talking about.
Don't try to sneak USC.
Like, if you're talking about the quarterbacks that you're talking about coming out.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Well, at Michigan, it's going to be Bryce Underwood. He hasn't seen a damn thing.
The first true freshman ever to make the cover of EA College Football.
There you go. We'll get that here in a little bit.
Yep,
I mean, and Indiana, they're going to replace Rourke, who's a guy that the coach is given so much leeway and rope to. Like, when you look at that whole conference, the top end talent, it's there in air quotes, but it's all unproven. And then you look at Penn State and you look at who they're bringing back. Yes, they lost Tyler Warren, who you can argue was the best tight end in college football last year. Whether it's him or Loveland, like, fine, I don't care. Like, but you're talking.
Harold Fannin Jr. was unbelievable at Bowling Green.
Sure,
but that's the debate.
Yeah, then you're talking about, like, which levels they're playing at and who they're playing.
No doubt.
But you take a look at, like, what they lost, and it's like they're bringing back a ton of talent. If you look at the very far too early mocks, Penn State has 5 guys in the top 50. You're talking about 5 in the top 45. So that's 5 guys in the first day and a half. That's Ohio State. That's Georgia. That's Alabama. That's if you're projecting that forward, when you have that much blue chip talent, that's going to put you at the front of the list. Now, can James Franklin finally deliver?
It's also at the right places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have 5 guys in the top 45, and if they're an off-ball linebacker, which can help, and a safety, that's different. They've got an edge rusher, a pure defensive tackle, their quarterback. Both of their running backs are round 1 or round 2. One of those guys was not in your top 45 or in that top 45, Katron Allen. He's their number 2 running back behind Nicholas Singleton. They're both probably day 2 or better picks. You bring in wide receivers because if you look at it, that was what the problem was for Penn State. They had Tyler Warren and Check's notes, nothing else. But if you're drawing a roadmap to Penn State being the best team in the Big Ten, I think it starts with, as you mentioned, really good talent, front-end talent, and then go put on the Big Ten title game and watch Drew Aller with just Tyler Warren and some running backs and the way he dissected Oregon's defense. That's a good defense. You don't have to think it's phenomenal. You can think their secondary was suspect because at the end of the year it was. But Drew Aller has the tools to put it together, and we've seen him do it in big spots. And when you look at Oregon and Ohio State, they've lost so much. And I think Oregon and Ohio State, as college football factories, we have a tendency to think retool, not rebuild. We're going to plug in this guy, and he's going to immediately hit the ground running.
Yeah.
At some point, your luck, it doesn't matter who you are, your luck runs out. You are not going to keep hitting, 1, if you're Oregon, 2 of the most experienced quarterbacks in the history of the NCAA, and then pivot to Dante Moore, and he just immediately does what those 2 do. There's going to be peaks and valleys, even if he's physically more talented. When he's down 3 against Penn State with 2 minutes left, that will be the most pressure he's ever faced in his life in college football.
And you don't
know how he's going to react.
Yeah, you don't have Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel, who you mentioned, have endless amounts of game experience to fall back on. You can talk about the Bo Nix moments where he failed early in his career in college, that he knew what that was.
Oh, you can go back and watch some of the Auburn stuff, and you'd say, this kid doesn't have it. And that's the hope with Drew Aller, right? Because Bo Nix, when he was at Auburn, everybody went, well, Auburn's still a machine. All their replacement receivers that they replaced, those draft picks and the running backs, they're all great, except they weren't. It was a cycle of misses, and he didn't have that talent around him that everyone just assumed that he had. These are all future first and second round picks. Well, they were all busts. And they all went, well, Bo Nix can't get it done. Well, it turned out it was actually Bo Nix supporting cast. I think if you're Penn State, you go, we brought in through the transfer portal much better receivers. We bring back 2 really good running backs. Losing Olu Fashanu a while back, that hurts, but now we've had the time to rebuild. We've got a good
And Penn
O-line.
State's trenches have always been good.
They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
They're good in the front 7. They've got a shutdown corner who might be a first-round pick, who's projected to be a first-round pick. All the pieces are there. The one thing that's always held Penn State back, in my mind, is that Penn State every year, other than that Rose Bowl year where they beat the Ducks with Kajana Carter, they feel like the also ran. Like, God, that Penn State team was loaded. They were easily a top 3 team in the nation, but they were 3rd.
They stubbed their toe somewhere along. Honestly, it's been very similar to Oregon in that when the light gets on the brightest, that's when they stub their toe. Now, Oregon's done a much better job over the last 5 years of clearing a lot of those hurdles, but they still have to exercise that one more demon.
It's the same debate. From an Ohio State standpoint, they retool, they reload, and they're phenomenal. But we've seen teams get the 5-star quarterback, put him in, and if he's not a stud from day one, he's supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink. That drink don't taste mixed.
It's real milky.
It does not taste right. And Oregon might face the same thing. The added bonus that Ohio State has that frankly Oregon doesn't have right now. They have Jeremiah Smith, who might be the best receiver, the best true sophomore receiver in the history of college football. He's that good. He is that special. If he'd have come out this year in this year's draft just as a 17-year-old kid, by the way, he went to school Ryan Williams went to school a year early, but Jeremiah Smith's 18 years old doing what he did, he probably would have been a top 5 pick. Yeah. They have that benefit. Oregon has Kenyon Sadiq, who I think will end up being a day 1 or day 2 pick. I think he's that special. He'll go in the first 3 rounds. He's better than Terrence Ferguson as an athlete. He's unbelievable. Outside of that, who's their 1A, 1B, 1C receiver, perimeter guys?
And that's where
we don't know.
That's where you hope a DeCorian Moore ends up being that dude. But as we were talking about in the break, what did Williams put up this year?
About 900 yards and 8 touchdowns,
which is great for a freshman. My God. But you're not gonna ask DeCorian Moore to go out there and beat Justin Blackman.
Right.
That's just not gonna happen.
We've kind of touched on this topic a little bit throughout the day, that the NIL has forced guys to come back. Age is going to force the 2 college football EA Sports cover athletes to come back because they won't be eligible for the draft. And they're not alone. This class of 2027 in the NFL is going to be amazing. We'll tell you who the 2 cover athletes are and also what fans can look forward to, because it might be Arch, it might be Jeremiah Smith, and a couple of defensive prospects who are going to be and grade out as Abdul Carter plus, and they're 18 and 19 years old. That's next on Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
Check out
NCAA college football cover has been released. There's a standard edition and a deluxe edition. The deluxe edition features seemingly everyone. There's Reggie Bush is on there. There's an official on there. Dan Lanning makes the cut. Sam Levitt, the local West Lynn star who's at Arizona State, makes the cut. A bunch of stars make the cut. The standard edition is 2 guys. And it's 2 guys who have to come back for another year, which I think is fascinating. It's Ohio State's Jeremiah Smith and Alabama's Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams put up 900 yards and 8 touchdowns after he reclassified. So he was at Alabama as a 17-year-old for his 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. And Jeremiah Smith is arguably the most electric true sophomore receiver we've ever seen. And Ohio State suddenly, one on offense, Jeremiah Smith, one on defense, safety Caleb Downs, have 2 of the best prospects we've ever seen at their positions. But as far as cover athletes go, they could run it back to back and not have it be an issue.
It's crazy, when we talk about the young guys and we talk about Ohio State. I'm sure there's a portion of listeners right now that are too young to remember, but the Maurice Claret of it all, being 20 years old and trying to go to the NFL and suing to try to get there.
Yeah,
I wonder if we have that happen again with where things currently are, because the NCAA is getting their ass handed to them left, right, and center.
Well, and those 2 aren't the only ones. This class that could be not this 2026 draft, but the 2027 draft. I've already written a piece for it for Sports Illustrated that it could be the best draft class ever in terms of hype. Arch Manning is unlikely to be a one and done, even as good as he is. Quarterbacks just don't do it.
No.
Unless they were seniors when they got the job. It's just very unlikely. There's Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. Everybody knows those guys. Dylan Stewart from South Carolina was arguably the best edge rusher in America, even on top of Abdul Carter, as a true freshman at South Carolina. There are folks who think if he were in this draft, he would have been a top 5 pick. Colin Simmons at Texas was a dominant force for the Longhorns, and yes, he was surrounded by great players, including Alfred Collins on the interior that kind of takes some of the pressure off him, but he was phenomenal. You've got Lenora Sellers, who could come this year or could be next year. I already mentioned Arch. You've got Dylan Royola. You've got DJ Lagway out of Florida. These are all guys, and to varying degrees of how much have you proved, but that all from a prospect profile you look at and go, yeah, I could squint and see him as a top 5 pick. And in fact, some of those guys, I don't even have to squint that hard. I just wish they could be eligible. When you have 2 or 3 guys now, because there's always a Cam Ward every year that pops up. If you've got 3 guys now that are already bona fide top 3 picks, Colin Simmons, Dylan Stewart, Jeremiah Smith, that you go, well, those guys are top 5 picks next year if they were eligible. That means your class is going to be bonkers, crazy bananas. It's an exciting time. The next 2 covers are likely to be NFL superstars.
And it's nice because this is probably has a lot more to do with my age than anything else, but it feels like we have been missing superstars in college football for a little while. And now Shedeur and Travis Hunter got a little bit of that treatment because of the media spotlight.
Was Johnny Manziel last one?
Yes, I was going to say Johnny, and before that, Tebow, and then obviously Reggie. Those guys, and a lot of this has to do with the way we consume content too, that plays a part in this, whether it's streaming, pirated, whatever, and how many different attention-seeking things that are out there. But it didn't matter who you were a fan of. You turned on Reggie Bush. You turned on Tim Tebow. You turned my dad, who does not watch college football, was locked into Johnny Manziel. So it's cool that we're at this. It is.
You
cool
had
that
to watch Reggie Bush against Fresno State. And people say, well, gosh, yeah, but nobody watched that game. Everybody watched that game. It was Reggie Bush against Fresno State. You had to watch.
So it is cool that we are getting the superstars back.
That's going to do it for tonight's show. Yeah. Thank you very much for letting me sit in.
The first edition of Danny and Friends.
Yeah, it was fun. There's going to be more. There's going to be kind of a rotating cast of folks coming in. I appreciate getting to be the leadoff hitter here, as it were. Danny Meringue, Jeff Rust. I'm Andrew Nimick. You can find me at High School on SI, on Twitter at Andrew Nimick. Rose City, enjoy the weather, enjoy the rest of the week, and have a good one.
See you tomorrow, folks. Take care. Talk soon. Bye.
Everyone has a fave Wendy's Frosty flavor. And when you're choosing from chocolate or vanilla, it's not